Прийшли окупанти до нас в Україну, форма новенька, воєнні машини та трохи поплавився їх інвентар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російські танкісти сховались з кущі, щоб лаптем посьорбати довбані щі, та трохи у чах перегрівся навар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Приперли зі сходу до нас барани для восстановлення
великої страни.
Найкращий пастух баранячих отар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Їх доводи всяке озброєння різне, потужні ракети, машини залізні, у нас на всі доводи є коментар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Вони захопити хотіли нас зразу, а ми зачаїли на орків образу з російських бандитів, робить примар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російська поліція справи заводить, там пивцю рашистів ніяк не знаходить, хто винен, що в нашому полі глухар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Веде пропаганду кремлівський урод, слова пропаганди ковтає народ, тепер нове слово знає цар.
Байрактар.
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 Yes.
The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.
Hello, everyone. I'm the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 1156 of the War News stream. We have massive news today that two nuclear powers are about to go to war with one another. It's Pakistan and India, and this is a very big situation popping off as we speak. And also, we have learned from Zelensky that North Korean missiles actually hit Kyiv last night, and also a pretty big revelation. And Russian forces take heavy frontline losses yet again, even today. And it's good to see you all once again.
And of course, we're going to be covering the past 24 hours of news from around the world, as we have seen that a situation, a diplomatic development between the Republic of India and the Islamic Republic of Pakistan has evolved in less than 36 hours from being an act of terror that appeared to possibly be related to Pakistan to now it has devolved to an actual armed conflict, with firefights already being reported within the Leepa Valley area north of the Kashmir region. We have also been able to hear at the exact same time that the Republic of India has now taken even further retaliatory actions against the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, deploying their aircraft carrier into the area of the Arabian Sea, and also continuing to close off all dams leading to the tributaries of the Indus River inside of Kashmir, thus, in effect, completely shutting Pakistan off from any supply of fresh waters. We are now understanding that at this point, due to the armed conflict inside the Leepa Valley area, or largely a significant border skirmish, that it appears that at this point, the Republic of India and the Islamic Republic of Pakistan are already involved in an armed conflict, and at this point, this is the first time in history that we've been able to see that two nuclear-armed powers have actually gone to war with each other while both being nuclear-armed at this very point in history. It is a fairly significant development, one that we did not have on the bingo sheet for this year, but nevertheless, we will be getting into as much detail as we can on that tonight. Meanwhile, inside the Middle East, we have been able to hear that the Russian Khmeinin air base inside of the west coast of Syria has been under significant drone attack by an unknown assailant who is attempting to try and destroy the remaining Russian forces at the airfield, while the situation in Syria has still remained incredibly unstable. We have also been able to hear that the Islamic Republic of Iran is now attempting to build a great deal of hardened shelters in an attempt to be able to try and ensure that the Islamic Republic of Iran will be able to maintain their nuclear research and development facilities even in the event of a U.S. attack if talks fail. And at the exact same time, the United States has approached the Saudi Arabians with a $100 billion arms deal to provide the Saudi Arabian kingdom with $100 billion worth of U.S. military equipment here within the next few years. Meanwhile, inside of Ukraine, we have been able to hear that the Ukrainian armed forces have continued to drive back the Russian Federation's attacks along all fronts. And not only that, we have also been able to hear that the Ukrainian armed forces are continuing their offensives inside of Pokrovsk, Toretsk, and also within the limited area of Chasiv Yar. Although we do not have specific details on most of those counteroffensives today, they do appear to be continuing as status quo. We have also been able to hear that U.S. support to the state of Ukraine has continued for now, as 3 U.S. flights have been documented just in the course of 24 hours, arriving in the city of Rezhau to be able to supply the Ukrainian armed forces with further weaponry that has already been approved by congressional drawdown orders. Meanwhile, we've also been able to hear further developments of the U.S.-Iranian conference inside of the city of Rome, where the funeral for the Pope is currently being held at this point. We've been able to hear that the U.S. negotiating stance has become a lot more hardline, and it appears that the Islamic Republic of Iran and the United States of America will not be able to find a diplomatic common ground to be able to agree to any kind of a nuclear deal. And at the exact same time, we have been able to hear that the state of Israel has protested the deal greatly, saying that it may possibly jeopardize their security and sovereignty within the region. Meanwhile, the United States of America has also seen that today the trade winds have shifted on Ukraine, and we've now seen that the president is openly berating the Russian Federation and Vladimir Putin directly for the massive missile and drone attack that occurred on the state of Ukraine last night. President Zelensky was able to confirm inside of Ukraine that KN-23 ballistic missiles provided by North Korea, or the Democratic People's Republic of Korea by its official naming terminology, were used in the attack on Kyiv last night, which resulted in 12 dead, just in a single attack alone. Nevertheless, we have a massive amount of news tonight, and I've got to be honest with y'all, it is a significant amount of news. And really quickly, I do want to address this while we have loads of people coming in. A lot of people are going to be coming in, and we've already seen this early tonight, and I got to say that this is actually a bit of a fair statement because this happened so quickly. A lot of people have been coming in and saying, is this clickbait that India and Pakistan have gone to war? No, it's not. It actually is a true statement. India and Pakistan appear to be in a direct armed conflict at this point within the northern region of their borders, as border security forces are now directly opening fire on each other in violation of a ceasefire treaty that was rescinded by the Republic of India today, possibly suggesting that the Republic of India has rescinded the ceasefire agreement and then opened fire on Pakistani border guards near to the region. It is also a matter of fact that this region is incredibly close to the dams that are currently being used to block all water access into the Indus River, which supplies Pakistan with nearly 90% of its fresh water drinking fresh water, or whatever you would like to call it. They're fresh water, 90% of it comes from these tributaries inside the Kashmir region. It also, I do have to say, it's a little bit bizarre. Before we even get into this, I want to make sure to just have a little bit of a preamble to this. There was really no build up to this at all. Usually many of you all know, because we've been covering news for about 3 years, there generally is a build up to most armed conflicts, like for example, the possibly evolving conflict with Iran. It's been going on for years. The conflict in between Iran and Israel, the tensions have been building up for years. The conflict in between the United States and the Yemeni Houthis was building up for years. The conflict in between Ukraine and Russia, of course, was building up for years. Most conflicts, and also, of course, the China-Taiwan situation, building up for decades. Most of these have been building up for decades on end, and tensions are always riding high between India and Pakistan, but the move from a isolated terrorist attack inside of India's northern region to going into a direct armed conflict within 36 hours was probably one of the most unexpected things that we could have anticipated out of this so far. But nevertheless, I am going to get y'all into this news because we do want to make sure to lay out the story for all of y'all today on what's been going on in this area, because once again, I do want to point this out. This is the first time in history that two nuclear armed powers have directly fired upon each other. Never in any point in human history has that happened before in an actual direct armed conflict. Yes, other countries...
I guess you could say that, some people theorize that if two nuclear armed countries decide to start warring with one another, that they immediately resort to firing nukes. I guess they've already kind of disproven that, because with the border guards firing at each other across each country's border, then it looks like they haven't resorted to nukes obviously yet. So I guess that's somewhat of a good sign, but it's unclear how soon they're going to try to use them, if at all.
It is a really interesting situation. Of course, nuclear weapons will not be used immediately by either side, but it is an incredibly perilous situation considering the fact that both of them are nuclear armed, and generally the relationship between Pakistan and India, while somewhat indifferent recently, historically is always hostile. That's the reason why they have nuclear weapons on both sides. But nevertheless, moving on into the news, I want to make sure to be able to catch you all up over the past 36 hours of what has been developing and what has led to the situation that we're seeing right now, so that way everyone's on the same page and everyone isn't just hearing that war began today and you'll kind of have a little bit of a lead up as to what happened. So, a little while ago, about 36 hours ago, gunmen opened fire and attacked a group of tourists and Indian civilians in an area of the northern Kashmir region that I believe, let me make sure that I get this right. I want to make sure to get the name right. Let's see, one second, folks. I want to make sure that I'm able to pronounce this correctly. And it appears that it was called, let's see. It seems as though most people are saying that it's the Kashmir killing, so we will go with the Kashmir massacre, or the Pahalgam attack. We'll go with the Pahalgam attack because that's what I've been seeing it called, at least within the local circles in India and Pakistan. But in a city called Pahalgam, which is inside of the area of Kashmir, a gunman opened fire into a group of tourists and citizens and ended up killing scores. It was around 50 or so that ended up being killed by the end of this attack. According to the Republic of India, who launched an investigation into this attack after the attack was stopped by Indian security forces, concluded that the attackers were actually funded and supported directly by the Islamic Republic of Pakistan. And by the way, it's a fairly common thing for all of these countries within Central Asia to be called the Islamic Republic of something. So this is the official name of Pakistan, but we'll shorten it down to Pakistan to make it a little bit easier. Nevertheless, the Indian government immediately started to take hostile actions against Pakistan in retaliation for the Pahalgam attack, which once again, according to the Indians, was orchestrated and largely conducted by the Pakistanis by funding and supporting a terrorist group that conducted the attack. As a result of this, we have seen that both sides have started to take incredibly drastic measures just over the past 24 hours, which led up to the firefight that we heard about just 2 hours ago. So moving all into the developments that we were hearing from both sides from yesterday, we heard that the Indians were expelling all Pakistani nationals within 48 hours, and that if any Pakistani nationals remained inside of India after that 48-hour period, they were to be arrested and imprisoned on site. We then heard that the Indians also revoked and removed the Pakistani military delegation that was inside of New Delhi at the time, and we have also been able to hear that just about 24 hours ago, the only aircraft carrier in the Indian Navy is now outbound from its port and is currently somewhere inside of the Arabian Sea, as we are now seeing that Twitter wants to take its time loading. And we love Twitter. Whenever you need a count on Twitter, Twitter is not there for you. But nevertheless, we were able to see that the Indian aircraft carrier did make itself underway into the area of the Arabian Sea for possible military confrontations that are going to be beginning here in the very near future. And this is the aircraft carrier in question right here. This is the Indian Navy ship Vikram, which left port and is heading a little bit closer to the coast of Pakistan. Of course, it's going to be 100 miles or several hundred miles away from the coast, so that way it's not directly vulnerable to anti-ship missile batteries that would be along the coastline near to places like Karachi and also Urmara. But nevertheless, we are understanding that the Indians are already moving a significant naval presence to the area of the Pakistani shoreline in preparations for possible military action here very soon. We then were able to hear that the Pakistanis responded to the Indian actions by imposing a complete embargo on Indian goods. Pakistan announced an immediate suspension of all trade with India, meaning that this is an all-encompassing trade embargo, including goods that have been routed through third countries, meaning that any single good, if it's coming from India into Pakistan, all trades have been stopped. If an Indian good is coming into Pakistan through a third-party intermediary, such as Singapore, those imports are also being stopped as well. Effective immediately, all trade relations between Pakistan and India have been ceased by Pakistan. Effective immediately. I want to make that clear. At the very moment that declaration was made, the trade was halted. There was no sort of a stopgap measure where it was a month from now or a month and a day. It was literally right at that very moment, all trade has stopped. We also were able to hear that at the exact same time, Pakistan started to make statements through its foreign ministry that any misadventure, speaking of the Indians, will be met with a response far more brutal than last time. Apparently showing that the Pakistanis will not be backing down to the situation, although the Republic of India is claiming that this terrorist attack was supported and funded by the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan. Well, Pakistan, correction there. We also were able to hear that India did issue a NOTAM over the region of Pakistan. Pakistan actually closed this airspace to India, and a NOTAM was issued for that, and all Indian flights that were flying over Pakistan were turned around, and now no Indian flights are allowed through the airspace of Pakistan under any circumstances or any situations. We have also been able to hear, as a further development, that the Republic of India then started to state that they will most likely be ending their ceasefire agreement soon. That was according to sources that were provided by the Gulistan News, which stated that India will end ceasefire agreements soon with Pakistan. That was not that long ago. That was about 10 hours ago, and we have not seen that has been officially rescinded yet, but there has been a lot of statements circling around from sources close to the Indian government that they are actually preparing for larger armed preemptive strikes against the Islamic Republic of Pakistan for the actions that were conducted in the attack inside of Kashmir, Pahalgam. We also were able to hear that India took probably one of the most severe retaliatory actions that we could ever see. And this is something that I have to explain a little bit, because when you hear about it, it's going to sound stupid, but when you actually know the importance of this is actually a bit of a big thing. There is a significant river. There's actually a couple of significant rivers that travel through the Indian subcontinent, but two of the most important ones are the Ganges River and the Indus River. The Ganges River is largely the most important river inside the Republic of India and provides a great deal of the drinking water to the population of nearly 1.4 billion people that call India home. On the other hand, the Indus River actually flows through Pakistan, and Pakistan largely uses this river for approximately 90% of its drinking water, and really all of its freshwater usage mostly comes from the Indus River, meaning that the Indus River, as far as a lifeline for Pakistan, is truly the most important kind, and it's also their biggest weakness. The thing about the Indus River, and this is the incredibly interesting thing right here, is that the Indus River's sources all begin inside of the Hindu Kush, which is right up here, or more so the Himalayas. But what is even more interesting about that is that the Republic of India actually controls every single one of the sources of the Indus River, because every single one of them is actually within the territory of India, not Pakistan. This means that India has direct control over the flow of water into the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan, and in the past this has been a major point of contention. India actually dammed up a lot of these tributaries in the past in the form of retaliation or an attempt to control Pakistan through controlling their water supply, because the alternative for Pakistan is they can either largely do what India wants, or India can cut off their water supply and they can all die of drought or thirst for the large part. So the Pakistanis have always understood this has been a significant issue. As a matter of fact, significant wars have been fought in the past before India and Pakistan were nuclear armed that pretty much laid out treaties all the way back in 1960, claiming that the Indians would not stop the flow of water from the tributaries leading into the Indus River, and so therefore they would not be able to interdict on Pakistan's supply of water, which is very vital to the function of their nation. As of today, that treaty has now been rescinded, and we were able to hear that the flow of the Indus River was supposedly stopped. According to some breaking news that came out earlier in the day, India has stopped the flow of the Indus River water to Pakistan. A government-released video today shows 4 dams and their corresponding canals also closed. We were also able to see an official publication by the Republic of India. I gotta say, they need to work on the formatting for their official government paperwork, because this kind of looks a little interesting to me. It actually looks like
it looks a little scammy, actually.
I'm not gonna lie, that's what I was gonna say. It looks like a scam, like, I'm not gonna kid. But this, beyond that, this actually is the official Indian publication, or more so document, that was given over to the Pakistani government today. This is with reference to the government of India's notices sent to the government of Pakistan seeking modification of the Indus Waters Treaty 1960, the treaty under Article 11, Article 12, correction, of the treaty. These communications cited fundamental changes in the circumstances that have taken place since the treaty was executed that require a reassessment of obligations under the various articles of the treaty read within its annexures. Two, these changes include significantly altered population demographics, the need to accelerate the development of clean energy, and other changes in the assumptions underlying the sharing of waters under the treaty. The obligation to honor a treaty in good faith is fundamental to a treaty. However, what we have seen instead is sustained cross-border terrorism by Pakistan targeting the Indian Union territory of Jammu and Kashmir, which are the most northerly regions. You can actually see Jammu and Kashmir right up here. That's that region of India. Meanwhile, moving on into the fourth section, the resulting security uncertainties have directly impeded India's full utilization of its rights under the treaty. Furthermore, apart from other breaches committed by it, Pakistan has refused to respond to India's request to enter into negotiations as envisaged under the treaty and is thus in breach of the treaty. 5. The government of India has hereby decided that the Indus Waters Treaty of 1960 will be held in abeyance with immediate effect, meaning that they are rescinding the treaty on the Indian side, effective now. Now, official government documentation and official government statements are one thing. It is a whole other thing to actually see that they are closing off the water access to the Indus River, which actually did happen today. We do have video footage right here, for example, showing that the dams have been closed along with their spillways and canals, completely stopping the flow of water from the tributaries and into the Indus River, meaning that at this moment, the waters that are in the Indus River are going to begin to dry up over time, as there's going to be no more replacements of the water passing through. This means that Pakistan will start to suffer from serious droughts, and we may see that there will be significant water shortages that start to grip the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan within just the next few weeks and months alone. The Pakistanis consider this to be a serious ordeal, and I actually have to say that as far as a serious ordeal goes, this actually is an incredibly serious one. Water doesn't sound like an important thing because, of course, to many of us here inside of Europe and inside of the United States, which make up most of our viewership, water is just a fact of life. There really isn't a lot of water wars that usually are fought, and if they are, they're an incredibly civil thing because usually they're fought within a group of allies, or, for example, inside the United States, it's fought in between the states. Funnily enough, the state of Alabama has fought a significant amount of water wars with pretty much all of its surrounding neighbors, including Tennessee, Mississippi, Georgia, and Florida, just to speak of a local example here. But what is more important, though, about Pakistan and India is that India can actually use the deprivation of water to Pakistan as a weapon. Pakistan relies entirely on the Indus River. There is no other river inside of Pakistan that could supplement or supply the water needed to be able to keep their country running. 90% of the country survives on the Indus River's waters. For this reason, at this moment, the the Islamic Republic of Pakistan has stated that the world should be concerned, and they also added a double statement that if the Indians were to cut off the water supplies to the Indus River, they will be considering that an act of war, will be considering it to be an official state of war. Also,
honestly, though, that is a wild move, though. Like, I can understand if they're having a problem, but to cut off the water, it's like that's a move right there that really would be an act of war, because if you're about to basically cause so many people to dehydrate like that and just basically die of thirst, it's like that's a pretty serious issue that they might not have any option but to respond to.
Yeah, it's a very serious issue. I mean, there's really no way to downplay this at all. The actions that Pakistan and India have taken to each other are pretty much already within the realm of warlike actions before we even make it to the firefight in the Leepa Valley, which we'll be talking about here in just a second. Every single action by the Indians and the Pakistanis today have quite literally escalated this within 24 hours to pretty much a full-on war. The Indians cutting off water supply to the Pakistanis, whether the Indians are in the right about that or not, is a war it's an action of war for the large part. It is pretty much going to be genociding the people of Pakistan. If the Pakistanis are not going to be able to get control of those dams or obliterate them and allow the return of free-flowing water into the Indus River through its tributaries, 90% of the population is going to be in drought-afflicted areas with practically no water whatsoever. It's actually a pretty insane sort of a situation that we're seeing right here. And not only that, the complete embargo by Pakistan of all Indian goods, even through through third-party intermediaries is an incredibly severe move as well. Every single move that we've seen today by both sides have pretty much placed us directly from a developing situation like it was yesterday when we covered it into a direct open conflict immediately. The diplomatic moves in themselves are practically declarations of war through a complete embargo and also the damming of all tributaries. But the most important thing that is letting us know that this is already devolving into war, which unfortunately I wasn't able to get these posts to put out because sadly, Matthew, we didn't repost these earlier in the day. I saw them and I wanted to repost them, and I was like, I bet you we probably already have them. But the Indians have mobilized the Indian Air Force, or the Republic of India Air Force, and they have been airborne 24 hours straight. They have not landed. They have had aerial refueling tankers keeping these aircraft airborne continuously, and there's been a significant air presence of different kinds of AWACS and reconnaissance aircraft near to the area of the Indian-Pakistan border by the Republic of India's Air Force, which is clearly showing us that they are preparing for possible military actions and preemptive strikes against the Islamic Republic of Pakistan. We have also been able to hear, in more significant news, really the icing on the cake to give us an idea of how tense the situation is, or how it's already pretty much moved into a state of war. Way up north, inside of those mountains of the southern Himalayas, or if you want to call it the Hindu Kush, which are all kind of the same thing up in this area, they kind of blend together, we were able to hear that there was an actual firefight that has now occurred in between Indian and Pakistani border forces near to the area of the Leepa Valley. We were able to hear that there was a confirmed border skirmish, as we were able to hear that there was fire coming from the Leepa Valley, and we also were able to see some footage taken during the night, which would line up with the time of day over there when this footage was made about 2 hours ago. It is nighttime in India currently, but we were able to hear the sounds of sporadic gunfire breaking out the valley, as it appears that Indian and Pakistani border guards, or border forces, are beginning to directly open fire on each other, which we can hear in this clip right here.
It sounds like somebody stole some water. I'm hearing some flowing water in the background. That's going to be a very haunting sound to some people very soon.
Dude, man, the Pakistanis are fighting and they're murdering people to get to that sound, dude. They're like, we got to get the water. But beyond that, of course, this clip right here is confirming through all of our other reports and the video and picture evidence, which we have to submit into evidence on this channel due to our rules of evidence, is confirming that there is ongoing firefights currently inside the Leepa Valley area on the northern Pakistan-Indian border. This is clearly letting us know that this has pretty much moved not only in diplomatic actions, but in actual physical armed actions into an actual ground conflict, which this is actually the first of its kind in history. I see some people trying to bring up examples in the past of when nuclear powers went to war with each other, but it's a bit of a stretch. The Amur River region around the Soviet Union and the People's Republic of China, at least at the time mentioned, it kind of is sort of maybe a little bit of a nuclear a war between two nuclear powers, but it wasn't really a war. It was more so of a border skirmish. With the actions that we're seeing so far right now between India and Pakistan and how rapidly this is evolving, this is more so not really a border skirmish. These are just direct acts of war, pretty much on every single level. Cutting off water, complete embargoes, and open firefights in the border. It doesn't really equate to, the Soviet Union and China fighting over a couple of islands in the Amur River. This is a serious situation. But not only that, if you do not believe from me that it is a serious situation, then I have to show y'all Modi and what he did today, or as a lot of people like to call him, the Gandhi of our age. A lot of people always like to think of Modi, who's a pretty popular kind of a guy these days. Pretty much everyone in the world knows Narendra Modi, who's the Prime Minister of India right now, as a pretty calm and collected kind of a guy. He's always very calm and collected when you see him in public. He's actually fairly diplomatic, I'll have to say. Usually whenever we hear from him, he's usually making some sort of a comment about Ukraine and how the war needs to end, and that the Russians need to be fair and stop screwing the Ukrainians over. He's actually a pretty decent guy when it comes down to it. Well, at least most of the time that we've seen him. But this situation today has actually gotten him out there, and he's gotten riled up. He's actually gotten to the point that I've never seen him before, and he was out there giving a full address to the Indian public right here, which I'll show y'all, and crazily enough, I actually do not have to read any subtitles or show y'all any subtitles, because he actually made the speech in English. So without further ado, here is Modi's address to the Indian public today about the ongoing situations between Pakistan and the Republic of India.
the soil of Bihar, I say to the whole world, India will identify, track, and punish every terrorist and their backers. We will pursue them to the ends of the earth. India.
I've seen a lot of people saying this really quickly. A lot of people say the audio is really quiet. It is. So I'll summarize what he said so far. He has said that he told the entire world that India is going to find, track down, and punish the terrorists that conducted the attacks inside of Kashmir. He's also stated that they will track them down to the ends of the earth if they have to. That's what he said so far. So we're getting back to the speech right here.
Our spirit will never be broken by terrorism. Terrorism will not go unpunished.
Now he's saying that India will not be broken by terrorism, and any of these acts will not go unpunished, largely repeating the first statements.
Every effort will be made to ensure that justice is done.
He said every effort will be made to ensure that justice is done.
The entire nation is firm in this resolve. Everyone who believes in humanity is with us. I thank the people of various countries and their leaders who have stood with us in these times. साथियों, शांति और सुरक्षा ये तेज विकास की सबसे जरूरी शर्त है.
I'm speaking in Hindi, so I don't really understand it.
विकसित बिहार जरूरी है.
That's really out of character for him to be acting like that, honestly. Like, he usually is pretty calm, like when he comes out to speak, but this is not calm. And I see some people saying he sounds like a former really bad German leader.
Yeah, I mean,
it kind of
actually
has that kind of cadence to it. Like, it really had that kind of cadence, which is kind of odd in itself. But no, this is really out of character for him. Like, this angry, like Modi right here, this is unusual.
Yeah, this is actually a pretty wild thing. Like we've actually seen over the past 3 years, on occasion, Modi hanging out either in Russia or here in America. Modi is like Modi's all over the place for the large part because everyone's trying to vie for India's hand in the modern age. But what's interesting about it is that Modi has never acted extremely emotional or uncouth, really. This is the first time I've ever seen Modi extremely emotional, angry, and uncouth over something. Pretty much he's pissed. And it appears that, at least based off of what they're saying, they have a decent right to be pissed. From what we're understanding, and I do have to point this out that this is a very controversial topic inside of Pakistan and India. So if you're from Pakistan or India, I'm explaining this as far as Americans would understand it and as far as our position in the situation is, but let me try and take my best shot at it. This is the Kashmir region up here. That's where all these little dotted lines pop up that make it look like someone's trying to trace something up here. This region is probably one of the most contended regions in the world. And I know a lot of people always say that Israel is really the most contended region in the world because everyone wants it. But the reality is that it really isn't. Because if you look at anyone who, there's two groups that conflict over who owns Israel. It's largely the Israelis and the Iranians. And really anyone else, they're largely supported and funded by the Iranians. So it's really just a situation between Israel and Iran. On the other hand, the Kashmir actually is conflicted by a lot of people. Pakistan and India conflicted between each other on who they control, and then Pakistan and India also conflicted with China, and China also conflicts the situation with Pakistan and India separately on what the Chinese control of the region. So this is actually the most contended region in the world, at least by the amount of nations that are actively trying to lay claim to the region. And for the large part, India has been able to hold control over this region for decades, really over the entirety of its existence. There's a lot of history involved with India and Pakistan, with how the nation was originally formed in 1947, and then Pakistan broke off from India just a few years later, and then they've had incredibly bad relations ever since. But beyond that, this region is heavily contested, but more so is considered to be a major insult to the Pakistanis, because the Pakistanis lay claim to the region and yet they control hardly any of it. So we have seen that over the past there has been a significant amount of terrorist activities and attacks that have been conducted by Iranian nationalists who have wanted to see that the Kashmir region is brought back under the control of Pakistan and not India. Although technically it really was never under the control of Pakistan, because Pakistan as a nation never really existed in this area. But nevertheless, that largely is still the running claim at this point. Beyond that, however, the Indians have still laid claim to it, and at least with the Palagram attack, which we just heard about 2 days ago, this seems to be another extension of a Pakistani nationalist group conducting an attack of terror inside of Kashmir to try and stir up the public opinion in India to possibly relinquish some control over the Kashmir region. That's at least the statements that are being made right now by the Republic of India and our general understanding of the situation, but nevertheless, it is an incredibly fragile one, and at this point, the fragility of it is completely broken down, and it's pretty much moved into a direct open conflict between the two parties. At this point, a lot of people really don't know what's going to be going on with this. We've actually been asking all this for the course of the entire stream, and loads of people have had very pessimistic opinions on this so far, because Pakistan and India are rapidly escalating into full-blown war as skirmishes are currently breaking out right now in the Leepa Valley, and a lot of people have been putting in their thoughts about what the future of the Indian subcontinent is going to be. Is it going to get much worse than this? Is it going to devolve into an actual direct ground conflict between two nuclear-armed powers, the first of its kind in history? Is it going to de-escalate soon? Are we seeing that this is a rapid escalation that will lead to a rapid de-escalation as both sides move to the negotiating table? Or are some people unsure on this and need some more info? Lots of people have had many different opinions, but it appears that many people are pessimistic and believing that this is actually going to get a lot worse than the situation we're seeing right now. So, Matthew, what are people thinking about this, and what are you thinking about it as well?
So it looks like 54% of the audience said it is going to get much worse, while 21% said it's going to de-escalate soon, and 16% said I really need more info on this because I'm not too familiar with it. And I'll be perfectly honest, I'm not super well versed between the Pakistan and India situation, but the one thing I do know for certain is the hatred runs deep between those two countries. Like, there's a lot of hatred there. That is probably one of the most hateful situations of any conflict in the world, is between Pakistan and India. So that is one thing that runs very deep. So that's going to be a strong motivator in this conflict. But the water situation, that is the main thing right now that is telling me that if that keeps up, this is going to get much, much worse, because they may not have basically an option but to respond. They're going to have to escalate it because they need the water to survive, and they can't let the civilians simply die of thirst. So it sounds to me like it is going to get much worse. I'm actually with the 54%, and I would say it's probably going to go that way based on what I'm seeing. But Enforcer, what say you?
I'd have to say, in my opinion, it does appear that it's going to be getting worse. At this point, with the rapid escalation that's been made, there's really been no way for anyone to step off to the negotiating table. As a matter of fact, both sides appear to be gung-ho to get right to the fighting. Because if they weren't, we would see that they would be trying to create more red tape to escalations and more off-ramps. They didn't do that at all. As a matter of fact, this is the quickest I've ever seen anything escalate so far. I mean, hell, really even the situation between Israel and Iran didn't even escalate this quickly. And that was considered a fairly rapid escalation. Hell, even in between North Korea and South Korea, it took an entire year for them to get near to possibly going to war, but it was an entire year. This all happened between India and Pakistan in 36 hours. It's the quickest escalation that we've ever seen. It's giving no ability to conduct diplomatic negotiations or conduct an off-ramp. So in my opinion, I'd have to say that war is here inside the Indian subcontinent. It's going to be here for quite some time, most likely, and I really don't know what to expect of this. Usually wars in between India and Pakistan are pretty destructive in their own nature, but I want to make sure, because someone actually said that there was a war that India and Pakistan did fight when both of them were nuclear armed, and I want to make sure that I am not mistaken about this right now, and so, let's see here. Let's see here. So, I'm seeing here, it appears that there's been a significant amount of border skirmishes. There's actually been a decent amount of border skirmishes, even since both of them have been nuclear armed, actually resulting in the deaths of hundreds on both sides. Even in just in 2020 to 2021, there actually was a major border skirmish that occurred that appeared to result in the deaths of several hundred Indians and Pakistanis of military and civilian professions. But nevertheless, this one does appear to be a lot more hostile than the last, even by just reading the general synopsis, those seem to have been a little bit more demure, actually, at least in their buildup. There was nothing as severe as we're seeing right now. So I would have to say, in my opinion, I do believe this is going to be getting worse. And it does appear that we've also had a follow-up thrown up by Matthew. With Pakistan and India being the first possible nuclear-armed war, what are the odds of nuclear weapons usage in this conflict? And it appears that a decent amount of people are saying that there's fairly low odds. Some others are saying that there's a medium odd of about a 50-50 chance it could really go either way, that there could be a nuclear exchange that occurs, and some are saying that it's actually incredibly high odds that there will be nuclear weaponry used in this kind of a conflict. But Matthew, what are people thinking about it, and what are you thinking about it as well?
So about 49% said it's very low, 17% said very high odds, and 26% said medium odds, meaning 50-50. And on this one, I still hold true to my theory. I don't think that nukes in any war anywhere in the world will initially start off with nukes being fired. That may be a last resort by this country. Whichever country starts losing, and they start losing so badly it looks like their country might collapse, then that country that has nukes might end up trying to use them. But even at that, it's still a big question mark. But I don't think the nuke usage odds are very high. Even with the hatred running so high, I think it's still very low. So I'm actually with the 49%. I doubt they're going to start lobbing nukes at one another, because once again, they may hate each other, but they do pretty much love their life. They're not trying to just throw their life away, and launching nukes is a good way to lose it. So I don't think they're going to do that. But Enforcer, what say you?
I'd have to say the chances of nuclear weaponry ever being fired, even amongst nuclear powers going to war, is highly unlikely. I would have to be with a large majority on that there's fairly low odds. Many people love life. Many of y'all are very much motivated by that. That's why y'all, don't go run in front of a moving car or, jump off of a cliff or anything. There generally is a built-in inherent genetic need to survive. And most people like to follow that. And world leaders like Modi, like Putin, like the President of the United States and Xi Jinping and everyone else generally like to live. They don't want to die a little bit prematurely. And if you start a nuclear war, it's guaranteed you will end up getting killed, especially if you're one of those leaders. It's pretty much impossible for you to escape the nukes because they are going to make sure to direct ground impact where you're at. So even if you're in a bunker, you're most likely going to be killed at that point. So a lot of them understand what's at play. There's really no chance for most of them to survive this sort of a deal. So with that in mind, both the leaders of Pakistan and India will also be understanding that as well, and they will most likely be keeping nuclear weapons to be used as a last resort if they were getting steamrolled and losing horrendously. That would be at least my opinion at this point, because there is never really been a situation in history where anyone's really just rapidly moved to trying to fire a nuclear weapon at someone without doing every single escalatory step possible before it and really holding it even to the 13th hour if possible at that point. But nevertheless, I hope that addresses that well. And I actually saw a special request earlier on in the stream by a friend of the channel, Jay Bagwell, who asked, could we see a comparison of Indian and Pakistani military equipment to try and get an idea of who's better off, at least as far as the quality of their armed forces? Interesting enough, India's military is about twice the size of Pakistan's. And of course, we know that because of the war in Ukraine, size does not mean everything. The Ukrainian army was a lot smaller than the Russian Federation's army, and it still actually held its own, and to its day, it's still holding its own quite well. So the size of an armed force doesn't really have a lot to do with it, and that's why Jay Bagwell asked such a good question. It really is the quality of the armed forces, and crazily enough, moving on immediately past the small arms, there isn't that much of a difference, actually. As far as I can tell, almost everything has a Soviet-inspired mantra to it. Also, one other thing I gotta say, Matthew, is that Pakistan actually has an incredibly large supply of 320 T-80UDs that were purchased from Ukraine about 2 decades ago.
That's kind of interesting. Is there a big like an alliance between Pakistan and Ukraine? Because I'm not really clear on that. Like, what's the situation between those two countries?
Not really. There's not really a big relationship. Back in the day, Ukraine was desperate for cash. This is kind of the story of Ukraine's modern history through most of it, is that they were desperate for cash and they were trying to find any way to make money. So the Ukrainians would sell weapons to anyone. I mean, Ukrainian weapons ended up everywhere around the world. And so some of these T-80UDs actually came from Ukraine. Interestingly enough, a funny thing is that the first Chinese aircraft carrier, the Liaoning, is actually a Ukrainian aircraft carrier that was sold to the Chinese back in the 90s. I don't know if you know that, Matthew.
Actually, did not know that. No.
Yeah, so you know the Admiral's Kuznetsov, which is the Russian aircraft carrier that caught on fire and is pretty much written off already.
Yes.
This one. So there was a second one. There was a sister ship that was actually being built during the time of the collapse of the Soviet Union, and it was both of these were actually built inside of Ukraine. But the second one was never fully completed. It was almost fitted out, but not exactly. And so it sat rotting in Ukraine for a couple of years. And then finally, I think in the 2000s, the Chinese approached the Ukrainians to buy the bulk of the aircraft carrier. The Ukrainians agreed, and then they shipped it on out to China. The first aircraft carrier that China ever got was actually a Ukrainian aircraft carrier, which is kind of a bit of a crazy story. But beyond that, the Ukrainians were literally selling to anyone and everyone. So if you look at countries that are on the poorer side, there is a decent chance that there will be a Ukrainian tank or something else inside of their arsenal. But beyond that, another thing that's really interesting is that the Chinese actually have provided Pakistan through arms purchases with VT-4s, which I've actually never really put that much attention into. It's pretty much a modified version of the ZTC-96, but it was actually a little bit wild to see that they have a decent number of the VT-4s. If you look right here, they actually have 119 of these. They also have their own joint production venture with the Chinese, which is the Khalid, the Al-Khalid, right here, which is pretty much a Type 69 that has been modified slightly with some additional reactive armor and also composite armor. It's not really that great of a tank, but for the East Asian standards, it's all right, but it's not an incredibly good tank and really wouldn't stand up well to modern warfare. They also have the Hit al-Zarar, which is, once again, another Type 69, or really a T-55 series main battle tank that was modified by the Pakistanis. Not really that great. It's all right. They also have the Type 85, which is garbage. It's Chinese, and it's pretty bad. And they also have some Type 59s, which are literally T-55s with the Chinese license version, and they also have some Type 69s directly. As far as APCs, they have thousands of M113s, an insane number of these, which of course are obsolete for the large part. They also have a limited number of Max Pros, about several hundred of them, but generally they have a little bit of odds and ends and everything, just speaking on the armor side of things and not breaking down the whole sheet. On the other hand, the Indians actually have a little bit more, at least qualitatively, a more fleshed out armor force than the Pakistanis. The Indians have actually started to research and develop the Arjun, which is their most modern and advanced main battle tank, and a lot of people are looking at that and are going, hey, that looks like something else. And Matthew, I want to see if you can hit it down on the nail. What does that look like?
It looks like a very blocky version of like an Abrams tank to me.
Actually, you're off. I was actually shocked by that. You're off. This is actually a kind of like a ripoff of the Leopard 2. It's like a license-built version of it. Yeah, it actually is.
I'm not seeing that, man. I'm seeing personally more Abrams. I'm seeing Leopard here.
Hold up, dude. Let me go. Hang on. No way. Let's see. I'm trying to see if I can get it. Yeah, here we go. The Kraus Maffei, who had previously developed the Leopard 2, oversaw this entire development program.
That's kind of crazy. Like I still see more Abrams in it, but I guess it can be Leopard. Now this is the tank right here.
And well, this one has like an additional armor package added to the turret, so it looks a lot different than the first one. But let me see.
Yeah, I was about to say that one does look like a Leopard. That one you just showed me right there. That looks like the Abrams again. This one right here.
No way, dude. No way you're calling the dude. This is like, let me go pull up a Leopard 2. I think you need like a cross reference here for this. Let me go get the Leopard 2 A4. Let's see. Where is it? Here we go. This right here and this right here. That is almost like a direct copy of a Leopard 2.
I can kind of see it a little bit.
Man, the Abrams is just, it's different looking like compared to that. Let me go get it. M1 Abrams. See, very different look.
I don't know. Rather than the front sloped armor pieces on the turret, I mean, it looks pretty close to me, like between those two.
Interesting. I see some people actually agreeing with you, but I actually did know the development process of this tank, and it was designed by Kraus Maffei, and they pretty much copied the Leopard 2 A4 to make this thing. So it actually is more so Leopard than Abrams. But, you know, pretty much once you get into Western design main battle tanks, they all generally meet the same criteria, so potato for the large part. But beyond that, though, they do have a decent amount of the Arjuns. And the Arjuns are of course, decent. They're Leopard 2s. They have about 126 of them in total, and they also have the Argent Mark 1A, which has the additional armor blocks added to the sides of the turret. I don't know what those are supposed to be designed after. I have no clue. But it does look interesting. I just got to be honest with y'all. I absolutely hate Indian camouflage patterns. They look terrible. But, beyond that, it's a decent main battle tank. They also have 1,300 T-90Ss. So pretty much the Russian army. Like, that would be the best way to describe a large part of the Indian fighting force. But considering that they're going up and fighting pretty much the Chinese in disguise, they're almost par on par. The Indians might actually be able to eke out a little bit better of an advantage because Chinese main battle tanks, or at least the ones Pakistan has, are several generations old. The Indian ones are largely up within the current generation of Russian main battle tanks, so qualitatively, they actually would be doing better in the Indian Army. They also have a decent amount of T-72Ms of every variety. They have about 2,400 of them, and they also have their own little light tank that they made called the Zorawar, which is very hard for me to pronounce, but there it is.
Why does all their equipment look like it's been junked out or something like that? Like it's just junky looking? Like it looks like, it's like, how can you take like a perfectly good looking vehicle and junk the thing out? Like it looks trashy.
I think it's the crappy looking camo patterns, really. I think that's what it is. Because they all do look like they're like, I don't know, they just look bad.
It looks like junk. Like it looks like it's been like, I don't even know how to describe it. Like they've Temufied it or something.
It really is it's really just a camo pattern, dude, because look at that. That's just a normal T-72 right there. This is an Indian one, though. But the camo pattern's just green, so it's all right. But then they put, like, the cartoon camouflage onto this thing. Well, I said camouflage in the weirdest way. And it just looks terrible. Like, that's just horrendous. But beyond that, they also have a load of BMP-2s. Once again, the camo pattern absolutely destroying what the BMP-2 looks like. And they also have these things called the Tata... Bro, they got some Tatas. The Tata Kestrel, which is just pretty much like a wheeled variant of the BMP-2 because it literally just borrows the turret from the BMP-2. So
you said Tata? Like Tata Motors?
Yeah, Tata Motors.
Oh, that's the people who bought Jaguar, I think. And also, I think maybe Land Rover, too. The two British brands. I think they bought them out.
Well, let's not mention that, Matthew, because then it would be pretty hard to say that India might be the good side in this fight, because what they did to Jaguar was a crime. But beyond that, the Pakistanis may actually be on the bad side of things, because their army isn't really as well equipped, and it's not as large as the Indians. But once again, we really will only be able to gauge how well they fight once they actually get to fighting. We can compare spreadsheets day in and day out, but it really matters the fighting. There's a whole bunch of other things, fighting spirit, logistics, and all those sorts of things that are a lot more minute that would have to be studied once the major conflict breaks out. So once again, we will have to wait on that side of things to really see qualitatively who's a better fighting force beyond the spreadsheets alone. But nevertheless, I hope we were able to address the entire India-Pakistan situation incredibly well. It took up the entire first hour of the stream. And it is time for us to start moving on into the remainder of the news that we have today inside the Middle East, East Asia, and also a little bit of news inside of the old US of A. But before we move on into that, I do have to say that I am absolutely shocked and surprised tonight that we had so many people here so far. We have had, at the peak tonight, a whopping 13,000 people here live on air.
Wow.
Right now, there's 12,000 of y'all live. Technically, it's 11.9, but I'm rounding up for simplicity's sake. And 50,000 people have watched the stream so far just in the first hour. I'm going to be honest with y'all, I'm very happy to see that. We've always wanted to cover world news and always cover a wide and broad variety of topics and subjects, like this one happening right now in Pakistan and India, and we are more than enthused to see that so many people have tuned in tonight to be able to hear the significant news of what's happening in Pakistan and India. With that in mind, if you do enjoy this channel and you would like to hear world news like this, hopefully we presented this well so far, and we're going to be moving on through the remainder of the different areas of the world where we do have news, make sure to subscribe. I very rarely make a plug to people to subscribe, but considering that so many people have been interested in the India-Pakistan story, I thought I would, because it is pretty common for us to cover major world news stories whenever and wherever they start to arise, and we love to know that people are enjoying that. We've always wanted to really make sure that the channel is supporting Western and American interests around the globe, no matter where they are and what they are, and it's pretty cool to see that so many people have been interested in this specific topic tonight. Crazily enough, folks, Matthew was saying this before the stream, and I was agreeing with him, that India might not really be that big of a topic. It really wasn't getting any traction today at all on Twitter. And so we were thinking, well, it might not be a big topic that people are interested in. But I like covering world news, and so I said, we're going to take a leap of faith. I bet a lot of people will be interested in it, and we're just going to run it anyways. And crazily enough, a lot of y'all have really enjoyed this news coverage so far, so I got to thank y'all for that. But nevertheless, we are going to be moving on into the Middle East and covering the news down here. But before we move on into that, I do want to take a little bit of a breather and a break to be able to address some live chat questions, so that way we can make sure to just have a little bit of a break and a little bit of a breather before we get on into the remainder of all this news. So Matthew, what do we got?
All right, so it's time for our first question segment of the night. And also, before we jump into our super chats, a big announcement, by the way. If you stick around toward the end of the stream, we're actually going to be showing our video. We actually finally finished editing the video from our trip that we just took a couple of days ago to Seattle and Southern Florida. So we have a 12-minute long video documenting the entire trip near the end of the stream tonight. So stick around for that, by the way. It's quite an interesting video, if I do say so myself. I think you're going to like it. But jumping into our first super chat of the night, this one goes to Rad Doctor, who puts in a $50 donation. And thank you very much, Rad Doctor, for the largest super chat of the night and helping to keep the channel running. And Rad Doctor said, have you guys ever seen the Indian and Pakistan changing of the guard at the border? And that's some funny stuff. And we love our enforcers and LSA.
And thank you so much for loving the enforcers, and long live the Lee Spring Army. And yes, I actually have seen the changing of the guard. I think it actually occurs right. Yeah, it actually occurs right here. There it is. How did I know that? I don't know. I actually just kind of honestly took a guess and I got it right. But it occurs right here. They actually built an entire stadium on both sides for it, so that way the Indians and the Pakistanis can watch. I'm not gonna lie, it gets into pretty much being a clown show. Like, the amount of like pageantry that there is, it goes beyond pageantry. It just gets into almost silliness, at least to me. I have seen it before. It's a pretty funny thing to watch. But as far as border guard changes go, I like mine to be a lot less frilly and more so utilitarian. It's simply a border. It is what it is. And this has kind of been created into like a huge ordeal. Let me actually go see if I can show y'all a picture here of the changing of the guard. Let's see here. A part where they throw up the leg. Trying to see if I can find that here real quick. Dang, man. It's like no one takes a good picture of this. These are the Pakistani border guards, by the way, in their official dress uniforms. But let's see here. Dang. It's actually hard to find a picture of this. But I don't know. I don't really like it too much. It moves on from being very professional looking, and it starts to get like a little bit too showboaty. And I'm all for militaries having a good bit of pomp and circumstance, but there's a point where you move on into being a little bit showboaty, and that's where the part where I don't really like it. But beyond that, I gotta say, thank you so much once again for the massive support and helping this channel to keep it running. It is funny, though, I will admit. But as far as, like, the actual seriousness of it, I just don't really like that kind of thing. Also, is that Atari? Bro, they got an Atari out here, like, right near the border.
Man, they're playing the real live version of Pong out here. They're trying to, like, ping pong the other person right into, like, non-existence.
Bro, they're gonna take the nuke and they're gonna go, boop, boop, like that over and over. It's gonna be, but
Bing bong.
Bing, bing, bong, bong. But anyways, moving on from that, I thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this channel possible, and we wouldn't be able to keep it running. I see a lot of people asking for a video of the border guard change, and I wish that we could show it to y'all. The problem is that we really do not know about the copyright side of things with that. We would love to show y'all all kinds of stuff, but whenever anything is filmed, there generally is someone out there who is like vehemently trying to guard the copyrights. Like, just to let y'all know, this is something that we've run into a bit in the United States. Whenever we tried to cover an air disaster, for example, that air ambulance that crashed in Philly, that ended up killing everyone on board and also a couple of people on the ground, and also that crash that happened with the American Airlines flight flying into Ronald Reagan National Airport, we actually got copyright striked on the air ambulance stream, and we also got a copyright takedown request on the one about the American Airlines crash, because whenever we're not covering anything that has to do with an actual conflict, the people who get involved in scalping those videos and copywriting the hell out of them is insane, and it's actually pretty dangerous for us, because we show a lot of stuff like that we're not just definitely sure that we can argue free use on it. There is some douchebag out there who is going to try and just like take our shirts for even showing the clip. So sadly, we really wouldn't be able to show it. I thought I'd give you all a little bit of a longer explanation because I know a lot of people are dying to see it. But if y'all want to see it, just go pull up the Lahore border crossing ceremony and you'll pretty much see the whole thing yourself. But with that, I hope that does address that well. You better not laugh at that one, Matthew. That was serious.
Man, that was so serious right there. You don't want to get into a skirmish at Lahore.
Man, I heard Chris's mom founded that city.
Oh.
But anyways, with that, thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this channel possible, Rad Doctor, and we wouldn't have been able to make it possible for years and years on into this point, covering honestly just the craziest kinds of news these days. But with that, we are on to the next one.
Someone said they searched that up and got something totally different. Honestly, I wouldn't recommend searching that name. I wouldn't recommend searching that. But jumping into our next super chat here, this one goes to Ryan, who puts in a $20 donation. And thank you very much, Ryan, for that $20 support. And we appreciate that very much. And he said, how's your guys' day? And honestly, our day's going pretty good. I'll be honest with you. I've gotten ill like the enforcer was yesterday, but I'm stifling it and I'm trying to mask it the best I can. So hopefully you're not detecting it in the stream whatsoever because I'm trying to like completely gloss over it and get rid of it. So it's going pretty good except for that. But enforcer, what say you?
My day's been pretty good. It really just consisted of trying to get sleep and not really sleeping. Just to let y'all know of a little side of things that's been going on. My ears still have not popped. They've been popping a little bit throughout the day and it's gotten better. But they still haven't popped completely. So it's causing a bit of pain. I went to go get some like decongestion medicine today to try and deal with it. And it still isn't really working too well. So I'm trying to battle through it the best I can, but I wasn't able to sleep really at all last night. I think I got like maybe 4 hours of sleep or somewhere around there. And then I just had to get up because the pain was pretty rough. But beyond that, my day's been pretty good. You know, went driving around, apparently got a catfish po' boy, which I'll be trying out here really soon with some fried green tomatoes and Alabama white sauce on the side. Yeehaw! But nevertheless, the day's been pretty all right. Kind of a bit of a slower day. But one thing that Matthew did do today, and I cannot wait to show this to y'all, and I do have to hype this up just like Matthew did, is that if y'all wait, y'all are actually going to get a little Patreon exclusive right there. Take a gander at that. We'll actually be showing y'all a little travel video that we made because there's no speech from Zelensky tonight, and we still want a bit of a break so that way we can get some water and also hack our lungs out. And that little video would give us some time to do that. So if y'all want to wait around till the end of this news segment, y'all actually will be able to see our little trip all the way across America from Seattle to West Palm Beach and all the way back pretty much. With that, I thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. I hope that does address that the best we can, Ryan. And I got to thank you for supporting this channel all the way from Canada and also being considerate enough thousands of miles away to ask us about our day. That was actually incredibly nice of you. And so with that, a huge thanks to you so much once again. And it is time for us to move on to the final question of the segment. And then we're going to be getting right back into the news.
All right, and our last one goes to Jenna, last name Tolls, who puts in a $20 donation. And thank you very much, Jenna, for that $20 support and also helping to support the channel and keep it running. And they said this is for the troll toll.
Hey, and I gotta thank you for the support to the troll toll. We all love the troll toll. And I gotta say, that's a really good way of putting it, Genitals. We haven't had a lot of trolls tonight, interesting enough, though we've just had a lot of people come in and chit-chat and hang out, and I like to see that. We don't like trolls when we ban them really quickly. But I do thank you for paying the troll toll, because it helps us to be able to make sure that Matthew's ban hammer is strong and alive and well, and that he's able to bring down the mallet of justice onto those ruffians and ne'er-do-wells that continue to pop up here. I've actually heard that apparently one of the bots was actually traced back to an unsecure line inside the Pentagon, which was a little bit weird to me. I didn't expect that, but you know, things happen. Nevertheless, I do thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. I also saw Brian Whiteicus say, try pinching your nose and exhale and blow against it. I would do that, but I was pulling that up online. And they were saying with this particular situation, because this happened because of allergies. It's just, you know, not a normal kind of an issue. They said if you do that, you actually have a chance of rupturing your eardrums. And not only that, if it's significant enough atmospheric change between the pressure inside your eardrum and outside of it, you actually could end up possibly going deaf or suffering from pretty much permanent tinnitus, which I was like, you know what, I'm going to pass on that. I was like, I'm just going to let this try and naturally pass some way. And eventually it will go away, or I'll just, go to a doctor and hopefully have them figure out how to make it go away. But I would do that, but I've generally seen that people advise against that. So with that, I hope that does address that well. Also, the vegan shift said, stop drinking soft drinks. You would never get colds again. Actually, I don't drink soft drinks. I really don't like them. I drink water and milk, and that's pretty much it. So, very medieval of me. But beyond that, I hope that addresses everything well. I hope it does. And also, let's see. See, some people, super hot showers used to help me. I was thinking about that, but I don't want to boil. Like, that was, but I think I'm going to have to do that at this point. I think I'm just going to have to go up there.
I boil all the way to the hot. Like, I turn that thing all the way to hot. It doesn't matter if the water heater's on scalding. I turn it all the way to hot.
Man, honestly, I really like get my water to where it's just slightly warm. Like, I don't do insanely hot showers, but I also don't like cold showers too much unless if it's like a rare day. And then I'm like, oh man, like being in the cold water is nice. Honestly, man, on those days is when I'm really, really hot. Like, like whenever we've done something that got me sweating, then I'm like, man, a cold shower would be nice, to get cooled down. But anyways, with that, it is time for us to move on into the rest of the news before we start yapping about showers, because showers are great and hygiene is a good thing, folks. It's a great thing. But moving on from that and into the remainder of the news that we have today, we're going to be moving on down to the middle of the East, as we've been able to hear that nearly $100 billion of weapons will be provided by the United States to Saudi Arabia in a weapons package. Wow, folks. Great thing to hear. And it's wonderful to know that $100 billion to Saudi Arabia doesn't break the bank, but $20 billion to Ukraine a year might break the bank. It's very interesting how U.S. dollars have no weight in the Middle East, but then when it comes to Eastern Europe, every dollar counts. I always find that to be very interesting. Moving on from that and into Iran, we already heard that Iran is starting to move into a sneaky, as Iran is reinforcing 2 underground tunnel complexes near its main nuclear site, possibly to house nuclear facilities. According to satellite imagery reviewed by the Institute for Science and International Security, this development comes ahead of a third round of nuclear talks between Iran and the United States of A. The IAEA has been denied access to the tunnels, raising concerns they could be used to store enriched uranium or advanced centrifuges. The United States and Israeli officials have warned that military action remains on the table if no agreement is reached. Iran insists the activity is peaceful. They only build bunkers for peaceful means, as we all know. And rejects IAEA oversight of the new sites. So pretty much saying it's peaceful, but we're not going to let y'all make sure it's peaceful, so screw you. So it appears the Iranians are trying to whip out a little sneaky, and that is coming right on the cusp of the end of the Rome talks today, which are a follow-up to the Muscat talks, or as I like to call them, the Muskrat talks. Dang, excuse me, folks. The U.S. has rejected an Iranian proposal for an interim nuclear deal during recent indirect negotiations in Muscat and Rome. Israel Hayom reports, citing American and Arab sources. Tehran offered to freeze uranium enrichment, permit immediate IAEA inspections, and implement additional confidence-building steps in exchange for partial sanctions relief and the unfreezing of billions in overseas assets. The envoy of the United States, Steve Witkoff, who is the special envoy to the Middle East and also Ukraine simultaneously, was open to the idea in Muscat, but by the Rome meeting, the U.S. firmly rejected it. Washington stressed that only a comprehensive deal within a 2-month deadline would be acceptable. Despite the setback, both sides reportedly agreed Iran could retain a civilian nuclear program. But it does appear that the Iranians are whipping out that sneaky. But something else that was a little bit sneaky today, that surprise attack that happened at the Khmeimim Air Base on the Russians in western Syria. Look at that.
Oh, wow, look. An old Soviet attack.
People would come from thousands of miles around to come see this old Soviet attack back in the Soviet Union. And now look at it. It's an abandoned, decaying remain. And then he walks in and there's like a guy shitting on the floor. Whoa! Something like that. And he's like something crazy. But anyways, that is the Middle East for you right now. That was the whole development on the situation today. Oh, by the way, forgot to mention, U.S. support is continuing to Ukraine, at least for now. There were 3 individual flights that made it to Rezhau today within a 24-hour period. But y'all know something else that's interesting? It appears that the president of the United States' attempt at romancing both sides in negotiations isn't really going well. We actually saw that he blasted Zelensky yesterday, and now he's blasting Putin today. Here's an actual statement that was made on social media today by the president of the United States. I am not happy with the Russian strikes on Kyiv. Not necessary and very, very bad timing. Some people have said it was terrible timing, about as bad as Rosie O'Donnell in that 18-wheeler. She'd never show up on time. People would say, "Please show up on time," and her fat ass would slow the truck down, slow it down to where it couldn't even move. Really sad. But Vladimir, stop. 5,000 soldiers a week are dying. Let's get this peace deal done. But it's a very interesting situation here, I gotta say, and it is letting us know quite clearly that apparently things are not going that well, at least from what we're understanding. It doesn't really appear, and of course I do have to say this, publicly the U.S. government keeps on saying that there is a huge amount of enthusiasm right now by the Russians to end the war, but the reality is that we're not really ever seeing that, like in actual realistic form, we're not really seeing it. So, in my opinion, I don't really think that there's going to be a peace deal made, even within this week. I think this war is going to be continuing on for quite some time, and the frustrations are beginning to show through at this point. Honestly, like, considering that tweet made today, I really do not know, like, what the actual position of the president is. I actually, like, I gotta be honest here. I actually think he might just have some sort of a naive idea, like, and I don't mean naive in a rude way. I just mean that, it's not really founded in realistic reality of things, that the war could have just been ended. Which just can't happen. I mean, like, there's just no way. Like, if you actually sit back and look at it with all the moving apparatus and components in it, there is no way to actually stop this war easily, or just stop it on a whim. So I don't know if he went into it with a mindset that he could just actually stop a war, just for the hell of it. I don't really know. But it is a little bit
I think he
interesting.
did. I think he misunderstood. I think he underestimated how deep the Russian economy has become seated in this war effort. And obviously, I don't think there's like a severe or deeper understanding of the complexities of the war. It's just a very surface level understanding of, I want it to stop. I want the killing to stop. And obviously, everybody wants the killing to stop. Nobody wants people dying on the front lines. But at the same time, though, they're fighting a war for a reason. Ukraine's trying to keep their land, and Russia's trying to steal land. So, if one side says, I'm going to keep going, like the aggressor, if Russia said, I'm going to keep invading Ukraine can't just stop the war. Otherwise, they get killed and defeated. It's like, it's just not that simple.
Yeah, it's just not that simple. Honestly, man, how this is going now, it almost seems like, at least from the perspective of the president, it's almost evolving into like a tragedy. Like he's trying to stop a war, and he doesn't even really, like, to be honest, y'all, he doesn't really understand how, because the negotiations have been going well, or at least his delegation doesn't know how. And the war is just going to keep going, no matter whether he wanted to stop or not. So it's like, honestly, man, this is turning into a tragedy on that end, because it's like, there was no way to stop the war just because someone wanted it to. Like, this isn't the Make-A-Wish Foundation, folks. You just can't wish a war away. This is something that actually takes a lot of time, and wars have to pretty much naturally conclude on their own. So, a little bit wild with that. But, nevertheless, the U.S. president did publicly call on Putin to stop attacking civilians inside of Ukraine, and is Putin finally reaching the U.S.'s red line? And it seems like a lot of people are saying, yes, Putin is pushing the limits, and almost an equal number of people are saying that Putin has free reign. But, Matthew, what are people thinking about this, and what are you thinking about it as well?
So about 45% said, yes, Putin is pushing the U.S. limits by hitting civilians on such a regular basis and getting more severe with every single strike. And 42% said, no, Putin has complete free reign to do whatever he wants without any U.S. response. And I would say that the response by the U.S. to simply tell Vladimir, stop, that is not what you do to dictators. That's never been the way of the United States. When we want somebody to stop something, we actually take action. We don't just talk. Because the U.S. has a powerhouse behind it, of course, in its military and its diplomacy methods, and we could stop that if we wanted to through actions, but we're not doing that. So it makes me wonder, is there really a limit right now with the U.S. officials that Putin can actually reach? Because if this is not the limit, because Putin keeps attacking literally the middle of the capital, which is Kyiv, where there's a massive high density of civilians, if that's not a red line for the United States, then I'm not sure if there is one. So I would personally say that it's just so weak. I'm trying to avoid politics here. I'm trying not to get deep into it, but it's just a very weak response. And it makes me wonder if it's just for show and if there's not actually any red line at all. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that Putin is trying to push the U.S. limits. I have to be with 46%, possibly to see if there is any U.S. limits, and I would hope that we have a limit, because these endless attacks on civilians has been going on the entire time, even more so than any other point in the war, really. And I would have to feel that there has to be a red line there somewhere, just on the humanitarian aspect of the thing alone, not even speaking the actual strategic side of things. So I would hope that we are seeing that that Putin is pushing the U.S. limits, because if he's not, and we really don't have any limits, then that's honestly a shame. More so than just seeing the conflict escalate. What would be even worse to see is that America has no spine. That would be my opinion. But moving on.
But notice though that he did make a statement about it. He could have ignored it because he's ignored it before, but he did feel the need to make a statement this time. That's because, in my opinion, that the attack on Kyiv was so comprehensive and bad by the Russians, and it caused some pretty severe casualties for one of the first times ever. Ukraine was not able to shoot everything down that was being fired at Kyiv, that it was impossible not to respond, but the response was so weak that it was almost the equivalent of a non-response, in my opinion.
Yeah, it kind of was, but it's I guess it's better than nothing. I guess we could look at it that way, but it really was a pretty weak one. Just stab it like it's a dad talking to their kids. Stop fighting, be nice. Like that. It's like that doesn't work in this kind of a situation. But anyways. With that, we are going to be moving on. And I've also seen some people asking about something for some reason that's been popping up a lot. A lot of people are saying, is the Secretary of Defense about to go? From what we are hearing, it sounds as though he will be. At this point, the House of Cards has kind of fallen in on that guy, because he's done a...
He's getting fired?
Well, it sounds like he's going to be getting fired, at least from what we're hearing right now. Just to kind of fill y'all in on that, he's not really been doing too well as the Secretary of Defense. He has had multiple security breaches and leaks, due to his own incompetence for the large part. And we've also heard recently that apparently he had a private line hooked up to his office in the Pentagon that completely circumvented all Pentagon security procedures that have been put in place, which is another major security blunder on the third one in a row for the large part. So we're thinking he might be going. Also, I've heard from some folks that I know out there the services that the guy is not really really popularly supported in the armed forces, to be entirely honest with y'all, because he removed something called family days. Don't know if y'all know what those are, but he got rid of all of them. So no one in the armed forces is really liking him that much for that reason. So we'll see. I also got to say this, man. It's kind of funny that, the U.S. military keeps on talking about dropping recruitment numbers, like they just can't get people into the military. So they're like, what should we do to keep the armed forces at proper strength? I know. Let's start stripping away more benefits that they have currently. That ought to make them keep around. It's like, how in the hell does that work? It's like, honestly, it's like, if we're seeing dropping recruitment numbers, we ought to start upping the kind of benefits that you get in the military to incentivize people to join. Like keep the family days, maybe. That's
yeah. It's just I don't understand the lack of understanding there with the low recruitment numbers. To me, it's obvious why people aren't joining the military. People are becoming more privy to how the negative sides of the military work, and young people are thinking, well, hell, I don't want to join that because I don't want the negatives that come with it. And even the young people that might want to serve the country are like, I don't want to go into the military and get treated like crap when I get out of the military and I'm not taken care of. Like that would be crap. So I mean, that's to me the real reason why. It's not because young people are weak. It's just that they're more informed now. They're more informed of the bad side of it. So now the military has to actually put more focus and more effort into trying to not necessarily make it like weaker. Like they shouldn't lower PT requirements. That's not the way to do it. They should simply work on making sure people are taken care of when they're out of the service and they're not basically thrown to the wolves and just shat on, basically.
Yeah, it's honestly kind of a bit of a crazy thing, because if I was the Secretary of Defense and I knew that one of the major pressing issues right now is dropping recruitment numbers, I wouldn't be further screwing down the service members and pretty much taking away more of their benefits while they're in the service, because that's only going to lead people to not sign back on their contracts and re-enlist, and it's also going to lead a lot of other people to hear about that, and then they're also not going to be enlisting either, so you're going to continue to deal with falling recruitment figures. It's like, that's just that's not what you want to do. I mean, that's completely counterintuitive to what's happening right now, is to continue to screw down the service members and just screw them over for the large part. But it sounds like he's going to be going. Also, by the way, if y'all want to know why they got rid of the family days, it's because, and I quote, it does not align with the Secretary of Defense's warfighting spirit. So that's kind of stupid. I'm not going to lie. It's like, like that, grr, let me get another stupid tattoo, and let's not hang out with our families. It's like, that's a really stupid way of looking at things. It's like, a lot of service members have families and they like them and they want to be around them. So it's a little bit stupid to act like, oh, because I'm an alcoholic that was a binging boozer on Fox News and I hate my life and my family, that I'm going to now impose that on the 1.2 million service members there are across the armed forces. It's like, that was a little bit stupid to me. And I'm not going to lie, folks. Every single person I've talked to in the armed forces, and there's been multiple people that I've talked to in different branches, have been pissed off on that one, more so than I could even convey on air on their behalf. It's just an absolutely crazy thing. So whoever they get as a replacement for the Secretary of Defense, I hope that they bring back the family days and also understand that you need to be providing some more benefits to these folks in the service, so that way they actually have a reason to be there. But anyways, or not really a reason to be there. The reason to be there is the defense of the nation, but to make it better to be there for the defense of the nation. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that somewhat well, and it is time for us to move on into the remainder of the news that we have inside of Ukraine. And it is now time for us to move up into the region of Sucha, as we've been able to see that scooter assaults by the Russians are becoming a lot more frequent. Take a look at this. They said, let's record a video. Bitch, they already effing going on their scooters. The dust is effing pouring out. On God. Oh, I can't even read that one. But they're on their assault scooters, and they're making their way downtown. Well,
dumb scooters. Like they shouldn't be taking scooters into battle like that.
They really shouldn't, man. They ought to be scooting on out of there with those. That's a terrible thing right there. But anyways, moving on from that and on into the location unknowns. Also, Jason Curling said you can join as an E5 now. I don't think so, because I think that to become a non-commissioned officer, you have to be approved by Congress.
You can join as an E5 how? Like what does he mean by that?
I don't know. I've never heard of that. And if I'm correct, to become a non-commissioned officer, which is E5 and above, you have to be approved by an act of Congress to be promoted to an E5. So I think that might not be the case. I think you can enter as an E4, like a specialist now, but I don't think you can go in as a sergeant or an E5. But moving on from that and on into, let's see. Someone said NCOs are not approved by Congress. Let's pull that up. Are NCOs approved? Let's see. Approved in Congress.
I think you can only join the military as an E3. I think that's the highest you can simply jump into it, being fresh, not previously in the military, as you can jump in as an E3. That's either through college JRTC or high school JRTC. You can get that waiver, or not a waiver, but you can get like a sheet that basically lets you join as an E3.
Huh, interesting. Yeah, so actually I was incorrect on that. For some reason, man, a recruiter told me a long time ago that the whole reason why the E4 Mafia existed is because hardly anyone ever got approved by Congress to become an E5, so everyone just stayed in E4. I just ran with that, but apparently that was wrong. I don't know why they would, man, honestly, I don't know why I listened to a recruiter and believed what they said, because they lie out of their teeth. So I don't even know why I ever believed that. But anyways, moving on from that, we did get to see some pictures of the training of the 3rd Brigade. And take a look at these fellas. Out there training with the M16s, the AKs, the whole 9 yards. Look at them. They're really out there training and learning. But moving on from that and into our next clip, we also got to see a Ukrainian MiG-29 lobbing some bombs. Take a little look at this. We can see the MiG-29 pull up, getting ready to lob. And there goes the lob. It's dropping off its GBUs right there. And then it takes a hard right and gets the hell out of Dodge.
Is that ground-based Undertakers?
I think so.
I don't really know how to make that up. I was expecting you to know the answer to that.
Is that the Cry Me to Sleep Mama Gang? Yes. But moving on from that, we also get to see the Russian casualty report for the day. And, no Bobcats.
No Bobcats? What the hell's going on? And wait a minute. Hold on a second here. I don't mean to jump off the topic, but someone said I was an E3 and skipped basic. I'm not aware of anybody that skipped basic. I'm not sure if I'm just ignorant on that topic, but I've never heard of anybody skipping basic training.
Can you skip basic in the armed forces? There are no circumstances that will allow one to skip basic training.
I didn't think so.
Let's see.
I think if you go in as an officer, I think you can go in and just go to officer training school, I think. But you can't just jump in as enlisted and skip basic.
All branches of the U.S. military do require some form of basic training. So that would be pretty impossible to do right there. So yeah, I don't think that's a real thing right there. Skipping basic just like that, because that kind of like completely deprives you of a lot of necessary training and also psychological conditioning that's kind of required for the armed forces. So, anyways. With that, we were able to hear from Miss D Secure Records that said total tanks is 10,694, not 10,654. Kyiv Independent, get your game. 134 drones ranks as the 32nd highest, and 134 vehicles is the 28th highest daily loss. Other categories are less than the 7-day averages. But let's break them down. 1,060 Russian soldiers have been wounded and killed over the past 24 hours, along with 5 APCs, 134 supply trucks, 3 main battle tanks, 49 artillery pieces, 134 drones, and 1 MLRS. It wasn't the biggest day that we've seen, but it was still a pretty decent one. Moving on from that and on up into the northern area near Kupiansk, we also get to see some Russian soldiers that were taken out. And take a look at this. Oh, and they got some FIFA music playing as they hit them.
Oh dear. Y'all know the only military that I'm aware of that you can skip basic training is actually the Russian military.
Man, actually, that's true.
That's facts, actually. It's, that might be a Russian soldier that said that. I skip basic. It's like, oh, are you Russian?
Man, I wouldn't trust an E3 that skipped basic. I'd be like, dude, do you really know what you're doing?
Are you even really in the military? Because how do you skip basic? Like, that's not just something you fall through the cracks on. It's not just a boiler.
Whoa, I mean, they're really dropping their criteria. I mean, you know, nowadays they got guys skipping basic. I mean, whoa.
I mean, I've heard of rocks like falling through the cracks, but that guy right there is a Rolling Stone.
That was actually a pretty funny one. I like that. That was actually a pretty good one. Moving on from that and down towards Svatove, we also get to see the Ukrainian 2nd Mechanized Battalion of the 3rd Assault Brigade clearing out the woods.
Я би зараз сюди колонки, нахуй, якби хуйнув би, сука, щоб підари там не умерли зразу, нахуй. У мене в рюкзак повний гранат. Ты ж сначала хватаешь, потом думаешь, блядь. Форта дай.
We see them all just hanging out, having a little laugh.
Та може бензин. Дай буфір. Що форта, він там пригодиться.
А это что за кнопки?
Це не клясно. Там где-то є катапульта.
Это скорость?
Oh.
We now see them on the way. And we now see them getting on into the woods and clearing that thing out.
Пулемет где, блядь? Стань на валина!
And they're putting in that work.
Пустый!
Whoa, I mean, call them an essential worker because they're clocking in those hours.
Man, I mean, call him Barney Rubble, but he's clocking into the quarry.
I mean, call him Fred Flintstone because he's not only working at the quarry, but he's grinding them down.
I mean, call him a pitmaster, but he's out here drilling with no sweet baby rays.
До блиндажа! Иначе пизда нам тут нахуй.
Я дублюю, Кавказ, я дублюю.
Oh, we see him lobbing a nade.
Давай, просуваемся. Фух.
That's the end of that clip, but still.
I heard something coming in on that last little 1 or 2 seconds of the video. It sounded like something was incoming.
That was the outro. They clipped it.
Oh.
Oh, heavens. But moving on from that and down towards Chasivyar, we did get to see some Russians getting hit down here by the drones, and they did have the Chad music playing, so we'll have to mute that. We see
Also, by the way, I see people still talking about the basic training thing. It's got people in a row about the basic training thing and skipping it. Someone said there's no skipping some training if you can't pass your route. Isn't it true that, like, for example, if you can't pass like some of the basic classes of basic, that you get washed out and you get restarted in the basic program? Is that true?
I wonder. I'm actually interested in that.
I've heard that from someone that I knew that was allegedly that was in the military. When I say allegedly, I'm kind of joking there. They were in the military, but they said that you could wash out of basic and you could get restarted through the whole thing, have to repeat it, which seems pretty hard to do, honestly, in my opinion. But I guess it happens.
And yes, it appears that
Everybody's
everyone is
saying
saying
yes.
that that's called recycling, and it does happen. That would be terrible.
I could understand like washing out of something like, for example, if you get to like some like tough training or something like that, like you go to like, let's see, like Navy SEAL training or something, or maybe like Ranger school or something like that. Like I could understand why people were washing out of that because it looks extreme as hell. But you know, I've never been through basic, so I'm sort of yapping without experience here. But it seems like based on what I've seen of like what basic consists of, it seems like it wouldn't be something, you know, too easy to wash out of, at least in my opinion.
Man, honestly, man, from the people who were in that I talked to and the people who are in, they said to wash out, you'd have to be like a literal idiot. Like, there's no real way to actually wash out unless you're truly just like worthless and useless. Most people say that really anyone can get through basic. It's just a little tough. And also, I think the person who said that they were at E3 and didn't go through basics said, don't appreciate being called a liar. Well, like, what you're saying, though, like, I've never heard of that. Like, if you would like to provide some more details, maybe we would be able to see if it was true or not, but I've never heard of that.
And also, we got a lot of military in the chat, like very like long-serving military, like people that have served 20 years plus and things like that, that say that that's not true. So, I mean, I'm not trying to bash you in particular, but I'm just saying that doesn't really meet the smell test.
I mean, I ain't calling you a liar, but I ain't calling you a truther. But moving on from that, down into Bekrovsk, we also get to see the Ukrainians attacking Russian infantry in the fields with the FPV drones. That was a quick pass right there.
Honestly, I've always thought that the hardest part of basic would be going to the gas chamber. That seems like the hardest part to me. Like that seems like I've always looked at that and think, damn, like that looks like that would be pretty rough. But at the same time, though, if I was in basic, I'd make sure I would simply choke through it or something, because I wouldn't want to have to get recycled, if that's what it's called.
And let's see here. And everyone is saying that everyone goes through basic, which, I mean, you know, is kind of just what it is. I've literally never heard of anyone skipping basic. Like, that sounds like something like a high schooler that's a little too cocky in themselves would say, like, I want to be the general. And then you're like, yeah. No, I'm just going to skip basic and be a general. You know, like, remember those kids, Matthew? And they actually would be, like, sincere in that statement?
Yeah, honestly, they would. That's true. So I've seen people talking about the gas chamber saying, it is horrible. Honestly, it looks horrible. Like, that looks like probably the hardest part.
But anyways, that's the end of the clip right there. Very nice to see. And moving on from that, and on into the next bit of news that we got down in Marinka, we also get to see a Russian grad getting destroyed near the area of Kurakove.
Someone said, your ignorance of basic training is abysmal. Well, what have I said that's not true? I haven't said that I've been through basic. I just said that a minute ago. I said I haven't been through it, but I was in JRTC. So I heard about people that were in the military telling me all the time about it, and the people that joined it and everything else. People that went to basic came back and told the stories about it. And also I have people in the family that were military that talk about basic. So tell me what I'm wrong about. Just tell me. I'm willing to be corrected if I'm wrong.
And I have plenty of friends. I mean, almost all my friends are in the armed forces. So like currently in the armed forces, either in the Marines, the Space Force, the Air Force, the Army, any of those branches. I think I have like one in the Navy, but I don't talk to him much. He usually is he's a bit of a interesting fella. But beyond that, I've never heard of any of them skipping basic. I've never heard anyone who just got into the service and skipped basic. So I would have to say that I'm generally saying that's a bit of a stretch to call that one. But nevertheless, we did get to see the 35th Brigade hitting some Russians around Kurakove as well.
Activista said the gas chamber is not it's no worse than a little food poisoning. Oh, I've been conditioned good for that then, because I've had a good number of Chipotles here and there. Just joking, but not really. Actually, I'm not joking, honestly. But the gas chamber seemed like it might be a little bit more rough than that, honestly.
Man.
I think it depends on which bases you're going through. Like if you're going through like a Marine Corps boot camp, that seems like it's a lot more harsh than like the basic in the Air Force or something like that.
Whoa, I mean, you go to the Marine Corps training at Paris Island, you come out and you fart differently. It's a thing. It happens. But anyways, moving on from that and into Erezhany, we also get to see them hitting Russian forces down here. Take a look at it. Flying that drone right into the bunker. And everyone's saying, nobody skips basic. Well, folks, that's in. Just in, folks. Nobody skips basic. That we are able to confirm. And now someone's telling us to stop with this nonsense. It's like we're not.
I think they're telling the people saying that. They're telling the people saying that to stop with the nonsense.
Man. But anyways, that's the end of the clip right there. Very nice to see. And moving on from that and into the next one, we also get to see the Russian forces getting hit by the JDAMs dropped by MiG-29. Call this Uber Eats because it was same-day delivery. Hot and ready, like Little Caesars Pizza. Take a gander. Here comes the MiG. And there it goes, right overhead. Getting ready to lob those bombs. And there it goes. It's lobbing. And there it goes. The bombs are on the way.
Did they let anybody have a waiver, like to not go in the gas chamber? Like, let's say you got a little bit of a little respiratory something going on. That might be something that actually disqualifies you from going to the military. Actually, now that I say that, but is there any type of like waiver you can get not to go into the gas chamber? Like and also, do you have to recite the Airman's Creed when you're in there under the gas? Like that's a lot to ask for while you're basically choking to death.
Man, I got to tell you, man. They don't even need to put all that money into making a gas chamber. All they got to do is have a couple of guys eat Taco Bell, and that would really do the trick. But anyways, moving on from that, we also get to see them hitting Russian forces near to the area of Polohi here in this clip as well. I'm just giving a break to my voice, folks. That's why I'm not really narrating this too much. I know Dead Space is sad, and I'd agree. But sadly, my voice also needs a little bit of a breather here. Also, FKI.
That guy. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no. Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
I was going to say that the fella, also, by the way, like the fella that says he skipped basic, I'm not trying to like have a go at you personally. I think he's taking it personal. It's just, I'm saying I've never heard of that. That's all I'm saying. He's saying he's going to email his DD-214. I don't think your DD-214 is going to say whether or not you skip basic, though. I like that's going to be a problem. I'm not questioning your service. I'm just questioning the whole basic part.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds a little wild. I've just never heard of anyone skipping basic. Like, the only person I've ever heard of skipping basic was Glenn Miller. But that's because he was running a band, and that was in the middle of World War II. So, that's the only person I ever heard of.
And also, someone said there is waivers not to go in the gas chamber. That's kind of crazy, actually. I've never understood really why they put you through the gas chamber. I'm like, is it really about preparing to be exposed to CS, or is it more about preparing somebody mentally for like big stress? Like, is it about conditioning for stress, or is it actually exposure?
I wonder. And also, I see that apparently someone said the old famous line. Let me go see if I can find it. I already know what it is, but I got to go read it directly. Someone's probably said, well, Enforcer, why don't you go join the armed forces? Why aren't you there right now? Why don't you go get yourself killed? Because that's usually what people say, that why don't you two join the service? Well, Matthew can, but to be honest, because of all the reasons of them treating people like shit, generally want to avoid that. And the second thing is that I really can't, because I was medically diagnosed as asthmatic years ago. So technically I'm asthmatic. I've never really had a problem with asthma, but the military, they kind of freak out about that. And also the more pressing issue is that my spine is about as crooked as your average politician. So that is also a bit more of a severe issue because they told me I couldn't join, even with a waiver, because of how crooked my spine was. So they told me to more so pursue politics, and that's now my goal. So that's the reason why I cannot join. I always love when people come in here and ask that question, though. Like, they're really getting a one-up on me, because, unlike other people who said, oh, I would have joined, but A, B, and C, and all of it's waiverable, everyone treated me like damaged goods, quite literally. Once I had scoliosis, once I'd ask a recruiter, hey, by the way, I have a scoliosis of this degree. It's I think 30 degrees or something like that. Can I join? And they'd be like, hell no, get away from me. Like, you're wasting my time. And so I couldn't join if I wanted to. So there's your answer. Anyways, moving on from that and into Rabotny, we also get to see them hitting some Russian forces. Take a look at this. The 110th Mechanized Brigade hitting those Russians.
Oh, man. Man, there's so many, it's crazy. Whenever the military, anything military is mentioned, there's a lot of good veterans out there that are just normal people that don't want to get too hyped up. Some of the veterans want to come out and get all violent. Like, anytime anybody that hasn't served in the military says something about it, it's like, what do you know about it, you goofball? It's like, listen, it's like, and also someone made a comment saying that nobody would want the enforcement in the military. I'll say this. The recruiters were trying to recruit us into the military heavily. Like, I was being harassed by every single military recruiter except for the Air Force recruiter, because they had too many recruits they were trying to deal with at the time. The Marine recruiter, the Army recruiter, and even the National Guard recruiter, harassing nonstop. And it was just all constant. Because, honestly, I wish I was harassed by the Air Force recruiter, because if they would have harassed me, I might have been like, what, tell me more about this again. Because honestly, the Air Force was the only branch I was kind of interested in kind of joining. But we were being harassed. It was just all part of the thing. Our high school was heavily policed by the recruiters.
We had pretty decent ASVAB scores. We had really high ones. So we were always getting harassed by the recruiters. As a school would pretty much encourage it. But the harassment stopped for me as soon as they found out I had scoliosis. Like, I got blacklisted from being harassed from that point on. I've never even had a recruiter reach out to me after high school to try and get me into the armed forces. I literally am somewhere. I'm in a database somewhere. No joke, I think. And it says my name. And then they're like, no contact. Just don't even talk to him. He's not even able to join. So I think that's the case. So honestly, kind of sad, because I wanted to join the Army and I wanted to get into the artillery. And now I'm stuck out here. It's so sad. I could have been there for when they stripped everyone's family days away, like right now. That would have been great. Honestly, I'm missing out. But anyways, moving on from that and down into Kherson, we did get to see them hitting Russian forces here in this clip. Oh, rock music.
Music.
Water Burley Hops, you said, I wouldn't think scoliosis would be that big of a deal. I don't really know why it's that big of a deal either. But apparently, if you have scoliosis, you're practically a cripple in the minds of the military. So I find that stupid. It's like, my back doesn't hurt, and it doesn't stop me from doing anything that my spine is crooked. I don't know why that's held against me that badly. That honestly has always kind of miffed me a bit, because it's not like I'm in a wheelchair or something, where I couldn't run. It's like I can do anything anyone else could do, and for some reason they act like I'm some kind of a cripple for it. That's just really ridiculous, honestly. But anyways, with that, I mean, I want to serve, folks. I want to serve. You know what I mean? Really, I just want to be honest about that. Like if we went to war with Russia over Ukraine, I would want to be drafted. Really, I would like to be over there with the rest of the guys, go through torture and terror, and then, have a whole bunch of nightmares the rest of my life, like I kind of already do. I would like to do that, but then they won't let me. It would take years for them to get through all the criteria of the medically qualified people, and them lowering the medical qualifications for them to finally get to me, because apparently scoliosis is just that severe in the minds of the military that I would, if a war went on for years, I finally would get called up probably 3 years into it, once they lowered the medical qualifications enough over those first 3 years, which is really just dumb. Let me go, put me in, coach, put me in, I could do it, put me in, coach. But anyways, it is time for us to move on up to Kyiv. Many of the keen-eyed will notice that we don't have a speech from Zelensky, and that is actually true, we don't have one. Zelensky was off on that business today. He was not doing really a press briefing or anything, so we don't really have anything to show of him, but For all of y'all who are very patient, and 9.5 thousand of y'all who are still here right now, we do want to give y'all a little bit of a special treat. We were gone for 5 straight days, and while we put out a good amount of explanations about why we were gone, a lot of people still had it in their minds, didn't really know where we went, pretty much, to put it that way. A lot of people missed the announcements. And so we wanted to take a moment, since so many of y'all are here, and also since we don't have a speech from Zelensky, to play y'all a little Patreon exclusive. We put the video on Patreon. We're going to be showing it here tonight as well, in its entirety. But if you do want to support the channel and help us out, I've never really made a plug like this on stream before, but tonight will be a special exception. You can support us on Patreon. The link is in the description below this stream. And you can support the channel and help us to be able to make this financially possible and keep working at this as a full-time job. Nevertheless, though, at least with this video, you won't have to pay to actually see it, because we're actually going to be showing y'all the video of the trip that we made from beginning to end, or at least the parts that we tried to film. And it is actually... Oh, hold up. It is actually a pretty interesting one. So let me move this over here on the screen. And without further ado... And I got to give a huge shout out to Matthew, because he was the one who actually edited this today and got it all put together. Without further ado, here is our travel journey that we just came back from 2 days ago. So, well, actually yesterday. So, here is the clip. Clip.
All right, folks, so this is the video from our trip out to Seattle and then down to southern Florida to find the new location for Enforcer HQ 3.0. Now, there was a lot of stuff we did off camera, but sadly, I was only able to film some of the trips. We actually had to focus on looking at the area to potentially move to one of these places. So this is a sort of not very comprehensive video, but gives you an idea of what we did. So enjoy the video, and here we go. Yeah, I forgot to film the airport.
Alright, so we're at this sushi place, and there's also like sushi going around on a conveyor. There's like an ordering thing up here. Never seen anything like this in Alabama. Completely unheard of. And also, look at that. That looks fantastic.
So then we drove out to Snoqualmie, Washington.
So hello folks, it's Enforcer Matt, and there's the Enforcer over there in the background. Hello. So we're actually in Snoqualmie, in an area behind Seattle. I'm really not sure where we're at, but it's pretty cool. And behind us, way over there, is a really cool looking mountain near Snoqualmie, I think it's called. And also over here you see, look, it's trains. We somehow ended up in a train rabbit hole in real life, and somehow I ended up in Seattle without a jacket. I didn't think it was going to be this cold, but it's actually freezing. So yeah, interesting choice. But very interesting place, and the Enforcer has trains, so very nice. So yeah, just wanted to show y'all Snoqualmie, and this is a little glimpse of it.
Then we drove further in.
So we just pulled up to a ski resort somewhere out in the middle of like the Snoqualmie National Park or something. Literally just a ski resort with snow out here, which is not what I was expecting to run across, but very interesting. And also, like I said before, we did not bring a jacket, so we're not stepping out there. There's literally people in parkas out there, so that was really dumb for us not to bring a jacket, but, you know, it looks pretty cool out there. Look at that.
And then we drove even further.
Look, you would think we like ended up and like took a wrong turn in Switzerland or something here. I mean, this is insane. You wouldn't even think this is in America. You think this was like Switzerland or something, but, you know, just like some type of cottages or something over there, or like condos. This is insane, like honestly, crazy.
So we're in Alpental. There's the sign up there. It's Alpental something in a national park outside of Seattle. And your boy is out here in shorts like it's Florida or something. But anyways, we'll overlook that. Very nice place, by the way. There's like some loud wind howling off a mountain, and it feels like it's a foreign country. It's quite crazy.
While Matthew films his video back there, I'm going to take y'all to some place really special. I've got to be honest with you, all my hair is really making me kind of a little miffed. It's not working right. The humidity and the temperature and the cold and the rain, it's all messing with my hair, and it's really long. I've got to get it cut. But the reason why I'm coming down here is to show you something absolutely terrific. Take a look at it. Right back there, it's a little waterfall and a little stream. It's so nice. And right back behind me is a Swiss chalet. I've pointed this out like 90 times at this point, but it's just so magical. Look at it all.
Never seen anything like this in Alabama, but a very, very nice place, I must admit. Although they got the road closed up here, but it's pretty cool. And also, just so you can see it, little rental car, by the way, drove all the way up here. So very cool. Just want to show you that, and we'll see you in the next little part.
And luckily we left quick because then a blizzard hit.
So out over here in the background, we have downtown Seattle, and as you can see, there's a cruise ship right there, which is pretty cool. But yeah, there's the skyline of downtown, and there's the shipyard, the industrial area over here. So pretty cool. Walked over to another part of North Admiral to take a look, and there's the skyline. And of course, it is rainy and it is overcast because it is Seattle, but pretty neat looking, pretty neat. Nice skyline.
But a really interesting place. And over here, North Admiral. And North Admiral is a really interesting place. It's a vibrant neighborhood full of all kinds of wonderful things. Wonderful, incredible things. And we'll have to show them all to you.
So we're out here in North Admiral, which is a pretty neat little neighborhood. Sort of, I really don't know what part of Seattle it is, to be honest with you, but it's North Admiral. And over here, you can see there's the Space Needle in the background. So that gives you an idea of exactly where it's at. And over here in the background, there's a sailboat absolutely hauling ass right there that's coming this way. So we're waiting on the sailboat to be able to see it go by. But this is North Admiral, and here's the enforcer, and there is the actual neighborhoods back here. So pretty neat place. I like it. It's pretty cool.
Oh look, an old Soviet sailboat sailing by at record pace. Very nice.
So right out the window is the port of Seattle. Technically it's Seattle-Tacoma because there's also a giant port down in Tacoma, but this is the one in Seattle itself. You can see downtown Seattle and the Space Needle over there. And crazy enough, this is one of the largest and most important container ports on the entirety of the West Coast. The only one that gets sizable enough to really compete with the Seattle-Tacoma port is the port of Long Beach. But you can see two container ships pulled up right here. You can actually see the container cranes working the ships and actually unloading and loading them at the exact same time. Pretty cool thing. You don't really get to see this sort of stuff a lot on the East Coast, or at least in Alabama.
We then drove over to Mercer.
This is Mercer Island, by the way. This is how it looks. Just like a pier down here. There's the enforcer.
Oh, hello there.
There's a little path up there. Very neat.
And then we looked around some more and got ready to head out.
So we're in Seattle Airport. Here's the enforcer over here. So we're about to get on the plane and head to Orlando in a second. It's a 5-hour flight, so it's going to be pretty long. So we're standing up and try to get our legs rested. So anyway, we'll see you then.
Oh look, an old Soviet plane ready to take off from SeaTac.
If you do not meet this criteria, do not wish to perform these responsibilities, have a hidden condition which prevents you from performing, or feel that you might suffer bodily harm should you perform this function, please.
And this was actually our view leaving Seattle. You can see Mount Rainier right here, and this was actually the most beautiful sight I've actually seen anywhere in America. This was really something to behold on the way out, and was a good way to end the trip leaving out of Seattle, I must admit.
Our priority on this flight is a safe, clean, and comfortable
Oh, hello there.
for you.
A few hours later.
So here we are in Orlando, and we were wanting to film more of it. We were really wanting to film way over there where we actually came out. But the problem is that it was so crowded, we actually didn't have time to film, and we were just trying to get out of there. But on the flip side, we ended up in a place like this, and just look, there's like almost nobody here. There's like maybe 5 or 6 people in this entire like concourse. But we're gonna be getting on the Brightline, and we'll probably be giving y'all the best review that we can do in the circumstances, I think. Probably most likely while we're on our way to Miami or Fort Lauderdale or wherever it is. But we will see y'all there.
So down there is the train tracks where the Brightline's going to come in here in Orlando. This is the Orlando Airport Brightline station. Over here's the enforcer, and over here is like the Brightline station in the background, as you can see. Kind of an interesting place, honestly. I'm not really sure what to make of it, but it's pretty neat. But it's pretty cool. And over there you see like there's a airport mobile bus thing that comes on these tracks over there. I thought it was a tram, but it's really not. But pretty cool.
I was honestly really babbling through this video, but the train station did look nice, and it looks pretty cool, actually. I was very impressed with it. Oh, look, an old Soviet train arriving at the station. Very nice. I'm told it's the same train that Amtrak uses by the enforcer, so very interesting to see. And to give like a quick overview, the Brightline was super modern. It was also run like an airport, which was kind of interesting because Amtrak doesn't do that. But overall though, pretty cool experience and very, very fast. This thing travels at like 100 miles an hour plus, and you could really feel that when you were on it. It was really booking it, and it was moving quick. But I like the Brightline, it's pretty good. Two hours later.
So here we are. We just left Brightline West Palm Beach Station. It's 9 o'clock at night. The train just got off. Pretty neat. We'll have to talk about that later, though, as we got to get to our hotel. So we're going to walk down the street and try not to get mugged. So here we go. Yeah, honestly, this place is like decked out for real.
This is a magnet right here.
And this is like very nice, actually.
And honestly, it should look really nice because it turns out this place is extremely expensive. So yeah, it comes with a price tag, but it looked really cool in person. Nicely paved streets, nice green trees. It looked pretty good in person, I must admit. Then we got a rental and started driving Florida.
Good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt. This time we're in West Palm Beach, and we're on a beach somewhere right outside of the West Palm Beach downtown area. So it looks pretty neat out here, actually. Pretty nice. We just flew all the way across the country from Seattle, where it's snowy and nice, to literally the nice warm beach out here. So finally, the shorts worked. They work here, but they didn't work in Seattle because we literally pulled up to a ski resort. But this is pretty cool. Look at that. West Palm Beach. Very nice.
And I'm telling you, that wind was blowing like crazy out there. And also there was a ship out in the distance right there. You can see it on the camera, which was kind of interesting to see.
Then we went and drove by Mar-a-Lago.
So this is the famous Mar-a-Lago here at, I think, West Palm Beach, Matthew, is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so this is the famous little spot, that Mar-a-Lago resort at West Palm Beach. I'm not gonna lie, folks, the infrastructure around here is rough, actually. You'd be pretty shocked to see, like, the condition of the road surrounding this thing, because we thought it'd be really nice, you know, like sidewalks, curbs, that sort of a thing. But look at this. I mean, like, it's like a normal kind of a road that you would find anywhere else. Like, we've been to a place pretty commonly in the Florida Panhandle called 30A, and not gonna lie, man, I'm gonna be honest with you, I think 30A's roads and like the houses around it look better than down here. Yeah, but this is pretty much back there and up here, the area just surrounding that little Mar-a-Lago resort.
And after we got done looking at Mar-a-Lago, we drove all the way down to Miami and checked out that area, and also looked at Fort Lauderdale and Boca Raton. And then we drove all the way back up to West Palm Beach and turned in the rental car, and then went to take a look at the West Palm Beach Bridge, which you see right here with the mega yachts in the distance. And then we walked a little bit further down to the left to the West Palm Beach Pier and got a different view of the city, which was very beautiful. And I must admit, West Palm Beach does look very nice overall.
There have been rumors that West Palm Beach is the nicest place in Florida. Some people say it doesn't get any better than this, but that's just what I'm hearing from people. Rosie O'Donnell, they said it was the nicest place, but I don't take her word for anything. Take it for yourself. Look at the pictures. Look at the pictures.
Those are the GTA towers right there, those two things.
Yeah. I have to make the GTA reference. And then we looked around some more and got ready to leave. And there were a lot of private jets taking off from this airport, which is kind of expected, but a lot of them actually. In fact, I saw more of those taking off than commercial flights, but yeah, pretty interesting. And from here, we flew all the way back to Birmingham, Alabama to the Enforcer HQ, and this was a very insightful trip, and we got to see a lot of America that we haven't seen before, and it was insightful to let us know where we do want to move and where we don't want to move. So from here, we are going to figure that out. But I hope this video was pretty cool to watch. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you all in the next one.
And that is the end of the video.
Honestly, man, I was wilding out with those voiceover bits right through there. Listening back to it, I sound unhinged, but I hope y'all like the video.
I gotta say, I showed up in that video like 90 times, and most of the times I wasn't even talking. I gotta be honest with y'all, I never knew what to do when he just panned the camera over me, so I just sit there and like do hand signals at the camera until it like went off of me. And then someone caught me, Matthew, on that one clip in the Brightline station where I stopped smiling too early, like so you could see it in the camera. Like, you know that one, you know that segment, you know the one.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, and someone's like, man, he quit smiling. He turned that smile upside down. I was like, damn it, they caught it. But anyways, I hope y'all enjoyed that. It was an interesting trip, a fun one for sure. And I wish we could have shown y'all more of the places that we ate, because some of y'all may have noticed, hell, he didn't have that much of a chin line, and that's because we were eating well. I'll tell you that. But beyond that, I hope y'all liked that. That was pretty much our sit-in for the speech. And crazily enough, that actually bled far less viewers, Matthew, than Zelensky's speech.
Oh, really? I think a lot of people were shocked to see us because surprisingly, a lot of people have not actually seen our faces in the chat tonight. So we've done like face reveals in the past, like on our podcast. So I think maybe people might have forgotten about it, or some people are new and they haven't seen that. But yeah, we've been on video before, but we look young. I'm just for reference, by the way. I'm 24, and the enforcer is you're 23, right?
Yeah. I'm 23, I think.
Yeah, you're 23. So we're young, but we're not like I think I look like I'm younger than 24 actually, just when I'm on video. But yeah, my voice is like a lot older sounding than my age. But hopefully hopefully I come across pretty decent.
We always sound like we're well wiser than our years, but we're just children, folks. We're only 23 and 25. I mean, well, actually, I think Matthew's still 24. Come on, Jack. But anyways, I hope y'all enjoyed that nevertheless, and it's time for us to move on into that second question segment. And also, y'all get to hear me coughing when I had the allergies at the airport. Funnily enough, that video, well, at least the video of me coughing in that airport at the end, that was taken literally just yesterday in the morning. That wasn't that long ago. So kind of cool with that. But nevertheless, it is time for us to move on into that second segment of the stream where we get to talk to each and every single one of y'all. We always love this segment. It's always a fun segment because it's pretty much a wild card. We can talk about anything and everything you all want. We can talk about what we want, and it's honestly a time for everyone, really. But nevertheless, Matthew, I understand that we have quite a many questions lined up tonight. And Matthew, what do we got?
All right. So we are now jumping back into our super chat segment. And also, let's see. The only thing I've seen people say in the whole video, because of course, whenever we pop up on video and we actually show ourselves in the video, that's kind of a little bit, honestly, a little bit nerve wracking for us a bit because we're rarely on camera. We're usually just our voices. We're like radio hosts, basically. So we're always a little bit hesitant, like how we're going to be received a little bit. I'll be perfectly straight up honest. The only thing I've seen so far is that the enforcer needs a haircut. So I think if that's the only critique we're seeing here, I think we're doing pretty good. So very, very good. And honestly, I think we both need a haircut. Honestly, I need a haircut myself.
I really need one.
Yes, it's getting quite long, honestly, I will say. But jumping into our first super chat, the last segment here. This one goes to Faust Around, who unfortunately is no longer in the live chat because he got extremely rude, but for whatever reason, I have no idea why. But before he got crazily rude and went off the handle, he put in a $50 support, which makes no sense. I don't know why he got so rude after donating support, but thank you for the support, I guess. But they said, Enforcer, how do you see the role of military families evolving as global tensions rise? And I appreciate your insights.
And also, what did he do, man? I didn't see what went down.
So it turned out that he was telling apparently you to shut up in the first one. When I said that he was talking to other people, it turns out he was talking to you. And then later he called me a dumbass and an asshole for no reason. So I have no idea what he even donated for.
Oh, all right. Well, I mean, honestly, man, I hate to say this, then I don't really care to answer the question. So we will be on to the next one.
All right. So moving on from that one, honestly, I don't understand why some people do that. Like, we've had that happen occasionally. People will donate money and then go off the handle like 10 seconds later. I have no idea why. This is just something that I'll never be able to appreciate or understand. But jumping into our next one here, this one goes to Harvey the drummer, who put in a $50 donation. And Harvey is a nice guy and a longtime channel legend. And he did not tell me that I was an asshole. So thank you, Harvey, for the support. And I appreciate that very much. He said, LSA. And were you guys able to secure your Nintendo Switch 2 pre-order last night? It broke the internet, and I secured mine through Walmart's website. And what's your favorite Nintendo franchise? And I'll be honest with you, Harvey, I haven't played Nintendo in a long time. The last time I played Nintendo was a 3DS, I think. And I think the game that I played the most was probably Mario Kart, I think, if I recall correctly. I can't remember the Mario games, but I think it was Mario Kart. But Enforcer, what say you?
I thank you so much for the support, Harvey the drummer. Actually, interesting enough, I've never really been a big person into Nintendo. Back in the day, I kind of was because, our parents were the ones getting us, like, the gaming stuff, and they got me a Nintendo 3DS. But I've never really been big into Nintendo stuff. I remember I used to play a good bit of Mario Kart, and I think we, at one point, Matthew, played Super Mario Galaxy on the Wii. But beyond that, we've never really done much with Nintendo. I usually am a big PC person when it comes to games, and I play all kinds of games. Throughout most of my life, they usually were some sort of like a nation building or a war game. So the Total War series was a big one to me, but only the historical titles. I never did the fiction titles. So I would play things like Napoleon Total War, Empire Total War, the Rome 2, those sorts of games. I always found those really fun. And then later on, I moved on into Hearts of Iron 4, which is pretty much, like a it's for people who like to stare at paint drying, and I'm one of those people sometimes. So, I was one of those folks. And then I played Europa Universalis 4, but then there was a whole bunch of other games that I played outside of that, like War Thunder, which is one of my it has been one of my big go-to games, so I'm kind of taking a break from it for now. Matthew and me did play Minecraft for a bit, like last year together, and I built this beautiful Union Station. It was actually incredible. Matthew can attest to it because he was in shock that I built it in like 2 days, because by hand. It was no MC edit or anything like that. If y'all know about that, it was all done by hand, which was honestly kind of shocking that I was able to pull that off, Matthew, and also get the dimensions correct on the main terminal that fast. Cool. Yeah, that was really cool. And also, Matthew built a whole bunch of like penthouses. Well, not really penthouses, but like modern style houses. And I think he was moving on to building a mansion when we took a break. And of course, that means we'll revisit it next year. But
I actually built an entire neighborhood because I don't know why I always default to building neighborhoods whenever I jump on Minecraft. The occasional little time I do, so I built an entire neighborhood. Built like 3 mansions and 3 normal houses. Honestly, I think it's because I like architecture, so I try to see if I can be any good at it. Somehow I actually pumped out a few good ones last time, but of course my attention span for video games as I've gotten older has started to wane quite a bit. So I just can't get into it for a long period of time. It was like a 2 or 3 day stint, I think, and then I was kind of like, okay, I'm kind of getting over it.
Yeah, that's kind of an interesting thing about that because I've been having the same problem lately too. I really cannot, I don't have the attention span for games anymore like I used to. I really appreciate the folks who do. Like, I know that some people are probably watching right now, probably that plays the games a lot. Now, we chit-chat here and there, and I wish that I could because, games are so fun when you get immersed into them. But for some reason, I just can't really get immersed into them anymore, at least recently. I've moved on to reading books and stuff, which I've been finding a good deal of fun in so far recently. But, it's books on things that people would be like, well, are you stupid? Are you on the spectrum for reading them? Like books about, containers, like the history of shipping containers, the history of a railroad. Matthew actually got to see it in action. Like, over the course of our trip, I read about 600 pages it was 600 or 500 pages of a book that was about a single railroad here in the South called the Louisville and Nashville. And I read I read 600 pages over the whole trip, somehow found room to cram that in, and finished the whole book during the trip. So, I've been finding a lot of fun in doing that. But I don't know what's up with the video game thing lately, but I've never really played Nintendo. Also, there are some other games that are on the really realistic side that I played, like Arma 3, Postscriptum, Squad, Hell Let Loose. Let's see here. 6 days in, I think it's 6 days in Fallujah. I think. And then there's a whole bunch of other ones. But I've also played some other games like Warhammer Space Marines 2. Really played that one on the request of friends. And then, of course, I have my train games because I'm like that. So I have like Railroader and a whole bunch of others. But still, that's generally the kind of games I play. I've never played Nintendo games, though. And so I didn't pre-order a Switch. But I would definitely pre-order a really good computer. Well, actually, I'll be honest. I actually wouldn't pre-order squat these days. I don't pre-order anything anymore because I used to be one of those people who really tried to get in on the ground floor on things and waited out on the pre-order stuff. And usually I always ended up being disappointed. So nowadays I'm kind of one of those people who's a little bit more reluctant. And I'm going to wait for that to come out and then see what the reviews are on it. And then I'll get it if it's good. And if it's not, I won't get it. But then at the same time, a lot of people are really fickle and really just hate stuff to hate it. Like when I was on the plane and we were flying to... when we were flying to Orlando from Seattle, it was a 5-hour flight. I actually watched Gladiator 2, which I had heard terrible things about, because everyone said it was terrible and it sucked, and it was it was politically imbued, all that sort of thing. And I was like, I'll watch it anyways because I saw the first one, so why not watch the second one? So I watched the second one. And it actually wasn't that bad. I mean, it took a lot. It borrowed a lot from the first movie. But I was like, it's a slightly different retelling of the original story. It was pretty neat. It wasn't bad. But honestly, my favorite movie that I watched on that flight, just rabbit hole here on movies, the favorite movie that I watched on that flight was a British comedy movie called Hot Fuzz, which, Matthew, I think you've heard of that one. It's the one, I think, with Simon Pegg in it. Who plays a police officer from London who got taken into a rural country town in Britain. and there's like this whole cabal of like the homeowners association that's like murdering people and all that.
What? No, I hadn't heard of that.
Dude, it is actually a pretty funny movie. It was hilarious. Like, I've heard about it a lot, and I was like, oh, it's a cult classic. It's got to be good. And it was actually good. It was actually insanely good, and I was pretty shocked by that. But man, that guy's a funny guy. That guy and his sidekick, and I don't know the sidekick guy's name, but he's heavier set like me. But he was a really funny guy. Really good compliment to Simon Pegg. And I was like, oh, this is a great movie. It was wonderful. Gladiator 2 was also pretty decent too. I mean, it wasn't that bad. But let's see here. Let's see. I see some people talking about all kinds of different things here with the movies and stuff. But man, you ought to see. Let me show you, man. You might be able to know Hot Fuzz from like maybe some stuff you've seen in the past. Maybe I could show you the meme. Like, let's see here. You know the one where the guy's loading the shotgun, Matthew, and he says, that's a shame? Like, you know, and the text box is below and says, that's a shame, as the guy's loading the shotgun. So that's actually from that movie.
Interesting.
So let me see here. Maybe you've seen it before this?
No, I've actually never seen that.
Really? Oh, it's actually a pretty good movie. I had heard about it from somewhere years ago, and so I just got interested in it. I saw it on the plane, and I was like, oh, I ought to get it and check it out. And also, he had an L1A1 SLR in the movie at the end. I was like, wow, that's like pretty cool. I actually didn't think they'd have that in the movie. So I was a big fan of that as well, seeing an L1A1. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that somewhat well, at least the best I can. And I do thank you so much for the support, Harvey the Drummer, and helping this channel to keep on running, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this channel possible, and we wouldn't be able to keep it rolling all the way up until the present day. And so with that, thank you so much once again, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one is going to go to none other than Pico Joe, who puts in a 20. And thank you very much, Pico Joe, for that support as well, and helping to keep the channel running. And he said, unfortunately, India only has a very limited storage capacity behind their existing dams, and they can only block the water for a few days.
And I thank you so much for the support, and that is interesting to share, and I was believing that that would be the case. But nevertheless, I would say that India might be able to find a way to still stop the water from flowing into Pakistan, because if the Indians wanted to, they could try and just divert the water elsewhere. Maybe into the Ganges, although that would be a pretty difficult undertaking, but they could try it. But that is still an interesting suggestion, though, and that probably will be putting a little bit of a time frame onto how long this will be able to last. But it's still a warlike action and could send Pakistan into uncertain times for water stability and other reasons. But beyond that, I do thank you for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this thing possible, and we wouldn't be able to keep it running. And so with that, I hope that does address that well. Thank you so much once again for helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to, excuse me, goodness, I'm getting the toddler syndrome. But Coleslaw put in a $20 donation, and thank you very much, Coleslaw, for that support. We do appreciate that very much. And they said, thank you, Guy, for the news coverage, as well as the Patreon exclusive tonight, and the 5 days had me in enforcer withdrawal. But do you think the Chinese economy will fall due to tariffs, and will the people turn on Xi?
Hey, and I gotta thank you so much for the support, Coleslaw. And thank you so much for enjoying the news coverage and the little Patreon exclusive tonight, where we were happy to show it to y'all. And I gotta thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep running, so that way we can be able to do things like that. Honestly, I'm happy to see that a lot of people really liked the video, because we were always a little bit concerned about being on camera. Like, I'll be honest, I'm not the best looking person out there. Like, on the best day, I'm probably like a 4, you know, like, I'm not gonna lie, not the greatest looking person. So it's nice to see that people were like, oh, look, it's them, wow, really cool. Because I'm always sitting there thinking, man, I could be like you know, I could be like another travel YouTuber who's like completely insignificant, and also looks like that, you know, and he gets like no views. And I'm always like, you know, I could be in that kind of a position. But I'm glad to see that people really did enjoy it. because we just love to know that people enjoy everything we do. We wish that we could have made the video a little bit more in depth and also explore a couple of other things, but there was a limited amount of time on this trip, and we only had really about a full day in each city. Travel included, 1 day to travel to Seattle, 1 day in Seattle, 1 day to travel from Seattle to West Palm Beach, 1 day in West Palm Beach, and then on the last day, we're getting from West Palm Beach back to Birmingham. So it was an interesting trip, and I'm glad to know that you really enjoyed it, or at least enjoyed the video that came out of it. And also, will the Chinese economy fall due to tariffs? It will start to decline. That's fairly certain, because America is China's largest trading partner, but China isn't our largest trading partner. So the Chinese economy will take a very significant hit. America's will take a hit, but it won't be as significant. So if anyone's going to have to bow out of that trade war first, it actually would be the Chinese and not the United States. So that's largely how it would work on that end. But as far as the Chinese turning on Xi, I think that the PLA has a greater chance of doing that right now than the Chinese public. But there's still a chance that the public could also turn against Xi along with the military. So with that, I hope that does address that well. And I thank you once again for support and helping the channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. So, also, by the way, like, honestly, like, my motto is on camera: if I look good, bad, or ugly, excuse me, that was a cough. That was not a laugh. If I look good, bad, or ugly, honestly, I'm like, hell, I can't control that. So it's like, however I look on camera is just how I look. So, it just is what it is at that point. So that usually, once I realize that, I'm like, okay, who cares? Like, don't worry about like being on camera, stuff like that. I will say, honestly, like, one thing I've gotten kind of used to, and I really don't film in public much. I really don't mind filming in public, like filming in the airport and stuff like that. Like, a lot of people have apprehension about doing that because they feel like they're like being stared at by everybody. For some reason, that wasn't bothering me at all this time. I was like, I don't really care like if people are watching me film myself over here or talk to the camera or not. It's just whatever. So that, honestly, I wouldn't mind filming more of those type videos like that. Like, I would actually like to do more of them.
Yeah, I mean, they were pretty fun. The thing, though, that I was telling Matthew is that doing trips like that are, of course, really prohibitively expensive, actually, to gallivant across the country like that. So if we do those, even if we were somehow able to try and monetize those to the max, we would actually be losing money pretty much every time we did that. So it'd be a tough thing to do, like to actually do it to where it would be sustainable to do that often, but it is still pretty cool. But beyond that, also, Eric has said, unfortunately, that is incorrect. They, as in India and Pakistan, have had conflicts before. Yes, but they've never been engaged in a full-blown war while both of them are nuclear armed. They have had border skirmishes, but they've never been involved in a direct, outright war. So that's kind of the thing that's different about it this time, because Pakistan only became a nuclear power in recent times. But anyways, I hope that does address that somewhat well, at least the best I can in my opinion. But with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, so jumping into our next one here. Also, excuse me, by the way, I don't know what's got this little like respiratory cough thing going on here, but it's sort of getting me like it was getting the enforcer. But this next one goes to Notorious GRG, who puts in a $20 donation, and thank you very much, Notorious, for that $20 support. And it's good to see you once again. And he said, please check out these Alice. I think I meant to say Dallas area. We have hills. We're not totally flat. And take a question from the live chat.
I'll tell you something. You're not flat. I'm just kidding. We can actually go look at the North Dallas area real quick again. It's just that, like, it's a small thing that I have that's a problem. Dallas has urban sprawl to an extreme. And just look at it. I mean, it's really a crazy thing when you really see it. Dallas is one of the largest cities in the world in the absolute area of square mileage that it covers, but crazily enough, for that size, it is one of the least densely populated cities in the world. So it's like an absolutely crazy kind of a paradox with that, and you really can see it. Because look at this. Like Matthew, this is actually quite literally what our folks were saying when they went out there. It's nothing but suburbs, and then every 9 blocks there's a commercial area, and you can literally see that from here. Look, you see the little commercial areas every 9 blocks or so at every single corner of every quadrant.
Yeah, honestly, like, I've been to North Dallas, and I was really strongly considering it, and I will still say it was nice, but it's lacking something. It's lacking. the character is not the right word. It has character.
Soul,
it's just
kind
sort
of.
of like standard American. It's lacking soul, I guess you could say. And it's lacking like a defining feature. Like, for example, like Seattle has the mountains, Palm Beach has the beach. Dallas is missing a factor or something, at least in my opinion. Now, if you live in Dallas, I will say it's a nice place. Like, I'm not bashing it. It seems a perfectly nice place to live, and they have nice housing there that's pretty decently affordable, actually. That's one of the main reasons I was looking at it. But it seems like it would get extremely boring very quick. It's like a super large version of the nice area of Birmingham that we're currently living in right now.
And I got to say, like, not dissing on Dallas, because Dallas actually is pretty nice. But the thing about the city, like, honestly, the whole problem with modern American planning in cities that really exploded once zoning laws became the norm is that they're very soulless feeling and very corporatized feeling. They don't really feel like the cities that had the organic kind of growth that you would see in older cities in America, like Seattle, or even, well, not really Birmingham to an extent, although most of Birmingham blossomed out before most of the zoning laws came into being. Except for the whole area south of Homewood. Like, everything down here is practically brand new, and those zoning laws apply. But everything north of that, the zoning laws really didn't exist yet. And it really does show. But I just, like, the thing with Dallas, and I've looked at it, and I describe cities like this as kind of like suburban hell, because it's a massive urban sprawl. There really is no way to get out of it. They have very few main road arteries, which everyone has to travel on, which means that gridlock and heavy traffic will be a norm. And all of that to really live in an uninspired looking place. That's in contrast to other kinds of cities that I think are pretty unique, like Savannah, Georgia, which has a grid, but it's actually a fairly unique grid. I'm not saying that Savannah's like a place I'd want to live, like, certainly not, but it is still an interesting place that has some character to it. Another interesting place, at least with kind of like the character or the soul, is actually the city of Charleston, because they actually see like that irregular street structure where it kind of just erratically popped up over the course of about 100 years. It still exists, and it actually does have at least some soul to it in Charleston. It feels like a unique city, like it's actually a distinct kind of a place. And, you know, of course, there are the famous examples of that, like Boston and New York City, where that kind of a soul and character exists somewhere in those cities because they didn't have the modern zoning laws and modern city planning sorts of aspects that we have nowadays. Dallas has all of that, like all of the bad city planning elements. Dallas has them all because Dallas really exploded after all of that became a thing. So that's kind of the thing where I'm like, you know, it's like I would like to move there, but I really want to move there because I'm sure that there's a lot of great, amazing people in Dallas, but the city just feels like it would suck the soul out of all those great people that are living there because it just seems to be, you know, kind of like a cookie cutter sort of a thing. And I'm really all for trying to have a unique kind of a identity to each city that's distinct. Like, the people in there are distinct, the buildings are distinct in their style, the streets are unique. Like, in Dallas just doesn't really have that, at least in my opinion. It's kind of the same.
I just like a place that has like a good main attraction. Like, for example, that's why I picked Florida, because I was like, okay, the beach, that's somewhere you can go for free and you can just go out there and enjoy it. Like, whenever you get bored, like, that's something you can always rely on. It's always going to be there, and you can always just go out there and have at it without having to spend any money, which is a huge deal. Seattle has the mountains, and it has the like very scenic like national park areas, which is something you can always go back to anytime you wanted, all the time. And I'm the type of person, I like to be able to go back to the same places kind of over and over. I'm kind of a creature of habit to an extent. So if I have somewhere that's nice, like the mountains, I'll go out there all the time, probably. I'll go out there and try to ski and things like that, which gives me something to do. That's a fun hobby that probably, well, I don't know how much it costs to ski, but I say it's like inexpensive, but probably not. Like, everything's expensive now. But like Dallas, you don't really have anything to do for free. It's kind of like what we're having here in Birmingham. Like, if you want to do anything, you have to go spend money at a restaurant. You have to go spend money at a store. You have to spend money to do something. And it's not free, and there's nowhere to go basically anywhere.
It really is kind of it's really a conundrum with that, honestly, in a lot of American cities. Is that, like, and this is a problem that just has gripped every American city. Like, even the big ones have this problem, is that no urban planners just set aside space for public areas that were of significant size. Like, if they do, it's almost like an afterthought where they're wildly small little parks. Like, if we go to Dallas here and we look for a park, we can find one. This is actually a golf course, so that actually wouldn't count. So Look at this. Out of this whole area right here, which is actually quite significant in size, out of all of that, there is a open, undeveloped lot down here, which isn't a park, and this is the only park, and this is what it looks like. And it's just, you know, once again, a more corporate kind of like an unimaginative kind of a thing. That's not really like an incredibly nice public area. It's just kind of like, all right, it just kind of meets the criteria. And it's like, that's just crazy. Like, you know, when you look at European cities, which slowly grew over time, and there were, of course, many things that have evolved in a lot of those European cities, they will have parks that are truly over the top in most of these cities. Like, for example, in Paris, they have some very, very nice parks in Paris. Like, check this out. The Jardin des Tuileries. Look at this. Like, this is a public space that you can actually walk in. Like, that's just very impressive. Like, the landscaping, the flowers, it looks like a great place to be. It actually is quite a nice little spot. And it's like, I
You
wish
just want to go sit in it. Like you really do want to go sit in it. Like you just want to get out of your house and go to it. If your area looks like crap, like I'm not you know, bashing the area we live in Birmingham. We live in the nicer area of Birmingham, Alabama. Like there's no question about that. There's a really, really bad side to Birmingham, Alabama, which would be the downtown and pretty much every other side than what we're living on. But even at that though, it's like when you go outside here, it's like you really don't see anything that makes you want to go outside. It's just like, it's just very boring. And that's what I'm trying to get away from, is just that you kind of like drive in your car, you walk outside and you're like, this is like really nothing spectacular to see or anything like that. It's just kind of like just meh. It's just what it is.
Like my personal opinion, like with a city, and this is kind of what I want to look for, because considering that the world is America's our oyster at this point, we can really go anywhere. I'm trying to look for a city that kind of meets the criteria, like almost down to a T if I can, which is a really audacious kind of a goal and will not be achievable. But trying to get it down to a T as to a city that would meet those marks the best it can, because. Like, and I've seen some people saying that Chicago has very nice public parks. Actually, interestingly enough, it's one of the few cities that does, like Grant Park right here. Take a gander at this. Let me go get a good picture of it. Well, the massive public fountains. But what is crazy about this is that most of this came about because of the Chicago World's Fair. Like, that's really the reason why this existed. And also the Chicago plan, which was never really implemented in full, and it was only implemented on the waterfront in a limited extent. But I think the actual World's Fair was further on down here. And let me go see if I can find some of the buildings, some of the permanent structures that were made, like this one right here. I think the Griffin Museum of Science and Industry is one of those buildings that was built, I think, for the World's Fair of 1893. But I think that whenever you go out into a city, it should be pleasant, and it should be inspiring, and it should be unique. It should be distinct to that area. And most American cities just don't have that. Like, most American cities just feel like the same thing over and over. It feels like a corporation came in and they were looking to meet the bare minimum requirements to get people into a basic living accommodation, for them to be able to work a basic job and to be able to have basic amenities provided to them with no extra frills attached. And I feel like at least municipal tax dollars should be spent to a great extent beautifying and the surrounding areas, creating great public spaces, and not only that, maintaining public infrastructure to the umpteenth degree, so that way when you actually get out into these public areas, you feel inspired to continue to stay out in them, and you continue to feel like it's actually a great city to be. And not only that, it attracts more business, because they're going to see that a lot of people are wanting to flock to this area, and considering that there will be a great deal of people there and a significant workforce, that would bring more business, meaning that the town will have an even larger tax base to work off of because of the large companies that would be moving in. It's a win-win kind of a cycle with that sort of thing, and just not a lot of people emphasize that. And it's just that's like, Dallas is not bad, like, at all. Like, it's actually pretty nice, but that lack of distinctness and identity that is inherent within the city planning of Dallas is something that would really start to grind on my gears, because I'm kind of one of the people who really notice those sorts of things. But also, look at this. That's the Burlington Zephyr. That's actually pretty neat.
Aha. They should just roll that out. We can live on that.
I saw this, dude. I had to show it. This was like one of the first streamlined diesel express trains in America.
Now that is fascinating.
Yeah,
also,
cool.
by the way, I see, not to jump topics, but I see people talking in the live chat about why don't you look at California? Honestly, we've been to California. We've been to Los Angeles. We went there last summer on the train trip. We took the train all the way up through California, all the way up to Seattle, which is the first time we were ever exposed to Seattle, which made us want to go back and look at it a couple of times, which the Enforcer has seen it 3 times now, and I've seen it twice. And I actually do like it. I don't like downtown Seattle that much, but I do like these surrounding areas. It's pretty scenic. But California as a whole is probably the most expensive of the Pacific states like that. The most expensive by a long shot. Santa Barbara, I see people recommending that a lot. It was very beautiful. Like, I love Santa Barbara a lot. And in fact, I went back immediately after we got the train trip and looked at the pricing of rentals here. And it is insane. Like, I think the rentals here are at the minimum like $3,000 or $4,000 a month at the minimum, and that's like for a shoebox. I'm like, I don't want to pay prices like that. And I'm like, really, honestly, a shoebox isn't going to work for a price like that. So, and also buying a house is out here. Like, you got to be a multimillionaire to buy a house here, which we are definitely not that. So, it looks nice, but I would never be able to live pretty much anywhere in California for that reason.
Yeah, we would have to start an extreme fundraising campaign and raise more funds than we've even raised for Ukraine to be able to afford a house in Santa Barbara, which really kind of puts it into perspective how expensive it really is. But it is a gorgeous place. We rode through on the Coast Starlight, which is a mix of the I think it was the Pacific Daylight. Well, actually, it was the Pacific Starlight and the Coast Starlight, I believe. That ran under Southern Pacific, and then they just blended the two services together. That's a whole thing for another time. But beyond that, it went through here right at the station, and we were looking out the windows as the train came in, and we were like, oh my God, wow, look at Santa Barbara. But the problem is that California is really expensive because it is like a really nice looking place. So a lot of people want to go there and live there. So there's a high demand and a low supply, and therefore the prices go up extremely. So that's kind of the issue with California. Also, like, another thing that I got to say, and this is something that's kind of been in my decision making with a place like Seattle, is the gun laws. Because I do have to say this, I have a decent amount of guns, and I like my guns, and like I kind of like tried to tell Matthew a while ago, I was like, yeah, if we had to get rid of the guns, we have to get rid of them. But me personally, I don't really want to get rid of them, because when I think about it, it's a very impressive collection of neat little neat guns. You won't really be able to find them most anywhere else. So moving to Washington State, even around Seattle, pretty much all of my guns have to be forfeited. Like, I have to just give them up, or I have to find a way to sell them. And so I was like, like, it's a very nice place, but then I kind of run into an issue with that. I got to end up figuring out how to get rid of dozens of guns. So the best idea to do would be to move somewhere nearby that actually would allow for me to keep them, like Idaho or Montana, or not Wyoming. Sorry, it's just too unpopulated there. I wouldn't be able to do that. But, there's also some other options, maybe Utah or somewhere else, Oregon. But Oregon has a magazine restriction, which I found out recently, Matthew. You can only have 10-round magazines in the state of Oregon, and I sure as hell like Bakelite magazines, so that would be a bit of an issue.
That's Seattle too. They have the same restriction.
Well, actually, Seattle has an assault weapons ban, so you can't even bring in a semi-automatic of a specific variety that can accept a magazine like that, because it's considered an assault weapon in Washington State. So if you're caught with one, it's a felony. You can
any semi-automatic, or just a semi-automatic with a high cap?
Let me go pull up the assault weapons ban thing. Assault weapons ban Washington State. Let me go get it. Because
what's the logic behind a high cap ban? I mean, honestly, like, I don't understand it. It's just like, if a nutcase was wanting to be a nut, they could either procure a high cap mag illegally and possess it illegally, or they can simply buy a ton of 10-round mags and simply, switch them out every time they run out of ammo, which wouldn't be, too complicated. So I don't understand that.
So here's our little infographic here. So let's start here. Is it semi-automatic? Yes. Is it on the prohibited list? So, let's check the prohibited list. Ah, yes. So, practically like every single semi-automatic.
Oh my God.
So, yeah, if you look at that, the Springfield Armory BM59, the G3, the SAR8. Like, honestly, some of these are just incredibly niche, and they're on the list. Like, look at this. The Springfield Armory M1A, by the way, y'all, I do have one of those. Banned. Cannot have it. The Sterling Mark 1, banned. Steyr AUGs, banned. Uzis, banned. I don't even know how the... SKS. And SKS is banned. Honestly, that doesn't even really, like, violate any of their criteria, because the SKS can only fit 10 rounds inside of its actual factory-issued magazine, which is an internal magazine. So it wouldn't, technically, according to these rules, it actually would end up not being an assault weapon, and nevertheless, it's still on the banned list. So, you know...
Why are they banning specific brands? Like, that's kind of weird. Like, they're going through and naming specific brands and models. It's like, seems like they would just simply say, if the gun fires at a certain rate and has a certain capacity of magazine, then it's banned. But they're going through and, like, naming the brand, like Colt, Heckler & Koch, all of them.
Well, you would think that would be it. But then the thing is that there's a catch-all with that. If it's on the prohibited list, it's an assault weapon. But if it's not, then we have to keep going. And then we have to figure out if it's an assault weapon or not, regardless whether it was on the prohibited list or not. So is it a pistol with a detachable mag? If the answer is yes, and it has a threaded barrel, a second-hand grip, a shroud encircling the barrel, or a detachable mag not in the grip, then it is an assault weapon. If it doesn't, then it's not an assault weapon. If the answer to is it a pistol with a detachable mag is no, then you ask the question, is it a shotgun? And if it is a shotgun and it has a revolving cylinder or a fixed magazine of 7 rounds or a thumbhole stock or a pistol or forward grip or a folding or telescopic scope, and any of those answers are yes, then it's an assault weapon. If all of those answers are no, then it's not an assault weapon. If you have a rifle and you just say no, then if it's not a rifle, then it's not an assault weapon. If you say yes to that, is the length of the barrel less than 30 inches? If the answer to that is no, then it is not an assault weapon. If the answer is yes, then we have to ask...
If it's no, I think it is an assault weapon.
Oh, okay, sorry, I got that wrong. But if the answer is yes, then we move on to, is the ammunition center-fired? So if the answer to that is no, meaning that it's a 22 long rifle, then it's not an assault weapon. If it is a center-fire cartridge rifle, which most rifles would be, then we move on to this. Does it have a detachable mag? If the answer is no, does it have an internal capacity or a fixed magazine of around 10 rounds? And if the answer is yes, then it's an assault weapon. If not, it's not an assault weapon.
This is so complicated. It would seem to be very easy to run afoul of this. Like, if you didn't understand the whole flow chart they got going here. This is like overly complicated.
Yeah. So like you're kind of getting the point I was trying to make at the beginning. This is very prohibitive. Like we would have to pretty much get rid of everything to be able to go to the state of Washington.
Yeah, that's a huge negative to me. Like, really, that's a huge negative. I'm not a gun nut. Like, if you are a gun nut, I'm not making fun of you either. Like, we have the right to bear arms, so go for it if you're legally able to own it. But, you know, I'm not a gun fanatic. But at the same time, though, I'm like, I don't like laws that are this restrictive, that are this complicated. If it was a little bit more straightforward, I would be like, okay, fair enough. Like, if you don't like the law, then don't move to Washington. But this is so complicated that even if you were trying to abide by the law, you know, there's a possibility you run afoul of it just by accident.
And also, I saw someone say, as someone from Washington, I understand why y'all want guns, but, you know, growing up in Washington, it was pretty nice to have these kinds of restrictions. Well, I mean, that's y'all state. So, you know, if y'all voted for this is what y'all have. But coming from Alabama, where there's pretty much like a laissez-faire attitude to really every kind of gun, unless if it's a tax stamp item, like, you know, like a SBR or a machine gun or a suppressor or something. This is a huge culture shock to us, and so it's really hard to go, yeah, let's move there, because then we have to give up pretty much all of our guns. Really, any gun that we have here in Alabama, we have to get rid of. So that's kind of the issue that I run into there. Idaho and Montana don't have laws like that at all. In fact, they have like the same laws as Alabama for the large part, and you still kind of get the same scenery. Like, for example, let me drop her down in here. On the interstate. Actually, let me zoom in a little bit closer so that we are on the interstate. So let me drop her down right here.
Vault toilet. Did you see that?
Vault toilet.
What the hell is vault toilet?
I think it's like a rest stop.
I guess. Like, why the hell are they calling it vault toilet? I thought it was like a bunker or something for a minute.
Oh, public wheelchair accessible bathroom. I don't know why it's called a vault though.
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
It was given a 3-star. But beyond that, this place does look pretty nice. It has pretty sizable mountains in it. Like, look at that. Pretty neat little looking area.
Interesting. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I mean, it looks pretty good.
Or, you know, there's Montana, which also has really neat places near, like, the East Glacier National Park, which we can look at right here. And, you know, looks like, well, you actually can't see the mountain right there, funnily enough.
What about Missoula?
Missoula? Where is Missoula?
It's in Montana.
Yeah, there it is, Missoula, right here. Let's check on Interstate 90, which is the one that goes to Seattle. So this is what Missoula looks like.
Interesting. I've heard a lot of Californians are moving to Missoula.
I have. They also have a pretty sizable rail yard here in the middle of the city. Mostly coal. That's weird. Oh yeah, I forgot. This is where most of the coal's being mined these days. That makes sense. Sorry, folks. But anyways, Missoula. Let's look at the curated pictures of Missoula. So this is what Missoula looks like in their curated pictures of the city, which are the best ones they have. And honestly, man, this honestly looks like Laramie in Wyoming.
Yeah, it kind of does. I like the mountains out in the distance, though. It looks pretty. Well, that looks really nice. I like that.
Man, actually, that is a really good picture. Whoever took that picture deserves an award. That was a really good one. Oh, dude, look at that. That's like that little meadow in Red Dead Redemption. Red Dead Redemption 2, where you go and hunt the elk. That is really neat. This actually is a pretty nice little city right here. But there are some really cool ones up here at West Glacier. This area up here is in the Glacier National Park for the large part, or kind of on its edge. So it's a really interesting little place. But take a gander at this. Pretty cool.
That is nice. Honestly, the places I rode down when we were flying over this area and I was looking down at the terrain, I rode down Salt Lake City, Idaho Falls, Missoula, Spokane, and Boise. That's the places I wrote down that I was looking at. I was like, that ground looks really good down there, but I don't know what the place looks like. I've been to Salt Lake City before. I've been to Bozeman, Montana. I've not been to Boise. I haven't been to Spokane. But honestly, that looks like a pretty nice picture of Boise right there. It looks pretty good.
Man, look at these pictures. Actually, pretty impressive. Oh, dang, man. What are you doing over there? Are you letting out the steam out of the steam chest, dude? I heard.
Just snorting, that's all.
Man, he was snoring. Aw, man. But let's see. Honestly, not a bad looking place, Boise, Idaho. Also, it's a bigger city too. But let's see. Walla Walla. I wonder what this city is like, man. With that funny little name, that silly little name. Oh, look, they got a statue. Beware of the dog, they say. I will not. It's a free country. I'll do what I want. They got that dog in them. But still, you can't really go to Oregon because, once again, the restrictive kind of a gun law sort of a thing. And I like my guns. Like, that was also in the state of Washington. So we kind of got to look over here, up here in this area. But beyond that, you know, it's a nice place up here. And also, the cities are unique. Now, Portland, Oregon is a very unique city, generally because of the rampant homelessness in the middle of downtown, which I was able to personally witness on accident on my last trip before Matthew came with me. Because I didn't tell you this, Matthew, but when I went to Vancouver, Washington, I accidentally took the wrong turn on the interstate, and I actually ended up getting shot off into downtown Portland. And
you got shot?
Like, bro, I honestly thought I was about to be. Downtown Portland is dead. Downtown Portland was rough. Everywhere else around it busted. Everywhere else around it actually wasn't that bad, but it was kind of like Birmingham, you know, like it's like this suburbs that are hanging on and a inner core that's just straight up dead. It was kind of like that same thing in Portland.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to live anywhere near Portland. Like, I've seen it from the train. Honestly, I wouldn't want to move there just for the reputation it's got. And it seems like the reputation is actually backed up by fact. And I've heard everybody, like, it's not just a political thing. I've heard people from every side of the aisle say Portland is a hellhole. And I'm like, that's good enough for me. Like, if every side of the politics aisle is saying that, then that's good enough for me to stay away from it.
Man, Matthew said, well, that's good enough for me. Like, it never went there ever.
My ass is gone, man. I'm not 7 foot in Portland.
But there is some nice views around here.
Yeah, it looks nice, but the city can't be bad, though, because if you need to go get your car serviced or go get business done, you got to go into the hellhole.
That's true. And that's a rough one right there. Also, the end of the Oregon Trail was right here. Man, how times have changed. Like, how times have changed, man. That was the end of the Oregon Trail back then. Man, God bless them. Dude, imagine going on the Oregon Trail for like months on end and nearly dying of dysentery to make it to modern day Portland. I feel like a lot of people would have just packed up and went back home.
Yeah, I would have packed up. I would have packed up and just like, headed out.
Man, I think a lot of people did, honestly, back then. Also, I see some people saying some things about Idaho. I don't know about that. Like, I've heard some different mixed things about Idaho on that whole side of things. I've heard that it's there and it's not, and that they got rid of it, and a whole bunch of other things like that. I also heard, apparently, now this is something I saw recently, and you kind of got to take this for what it is, because we also had something stupid happen where we're from, like our original hometown. But there was this, do you remember this, Matty, the town hall meeting where some woman asked a question and the sheriff who was off duty arrested the woman for asking a question at the town meeting, and it was in Idaho?
I vaguely recall that, yeah.
It's kind of like recently, and she didn't break the law or anything. He wasn't even on duty, and nevertheless he arrested her outside of his authorities and powers. And I was like, wow, that's actually pretty messed up. But then again, I got to tell you all a little story about where we're from, which is the little town of Wetumpka. That's pretty much our hometown. And they made pretty much the news on the internet because they went and arrested 2 women that were getting all of the stray cats spayed in the town. Because just to basically boil it down, the mayor didn't like these 2 women, and he just thought that they were doing some stupid business. And although what they were doing was entirely legal, mind you, they ended up they wound up arresting the women anyways, and I think they sued the city and won. But we had stupid stuff happening there. Honestly, this town of Wetumpka, it's lost a lot of its like character that it used to have, because like it went artsy and everything. And I'm not saying that in like a political way. It literally just went artsy, like it's like the cheap little shitty like tourist trap kind of stores that are now there. That's not like what it used to be. But one thing that was interesting about Wetumpka is that the town was actually pretty corrupt. Like the local police don't really uphold the law. They're more so just loyal to the mayor and do whatever the mayor tells them. So that was a fun thing. We found that out right after we got out of high school. And I was like, wow.
I don't think the mayor liked us that much. I have a odd suspicion that the guy really didn't care for us. I don't know why I have that odd suspicion. It might have something to do with our political signs being ripped up off the sides of the roads by the city administration. I don't know. Like, it might have something to do with that.
It might have a thing to do with, we absolutely flamed the guy that he was supporting in our district in the town during that campaign too. I think that may have actually helped that out just a little bit extra. But I'm not gonna lie, dude. If anyone asked me, would you flame that guy like you did again? I would say, hell yeah. That was honestly worth it. Like hearing everyone's call your opponent the streak because of a video we put out about like that. Nothing will ever top that high of actually having your political opponent not even called by their name. They're called the streak. And I was like, this is like that spread not only through the town of Wetumpka, but to the neighboring towns of Millbrook and Prattville, which Prattville,
man,
is over here, all the way over here. And the streak made it all the way out there like that joke did.
Man, that joke was like going all over the place. Also, by the way, if y'all don't know what we're talking about, the enforcer, my brother, actually ran for city council at one point in Wetumpka, and I managed this campaign for him. And I like made signs, and we did a whole social media campaign. We did a whole bunch of stuff. And it was a little bit of a long shot because obviously the enforcer was much younger then, fresh out of graduating high school, and he was running for city council. So I was like, okay, I don't know what our odds are of winning, but let's see what we can do. So we both went at it full speed. I was doing everything I could on my end, and the enforcer was doing everything he could on his end. And we went and put our signs around the town, like these campaign signs that we made. All of a sudden, they start all disappearing, like overnight. We're like, what the hell? We're like, what's going on? So we start camping out at night to try to spot the people that are ripping them up. We can't find the people ripping them up, but all of a sudden, when we're not looking, they're going missing again, and they're all like ripped up. Later, we find out that the city's janitor or the city's cleaner upper fella admits to going around and ripping them up and taking them and putting them behind the shed at the city council building. It's like, what? And we were like, why did you do that? Because he actually came up to us and confronted us about putting the signs out, which were not on city property. And he said, well, we ripped the signs up because you didn't have permission. I said, permission? I said, you went around and asked every single landowner that we put the signs on if we had permission? Oh, well, no, we didn't ask that, but we just assumed you didn't. It's like, what? It's like, then you just illegally took the signs up then. It's like you didn't even have a right to take the signs up. I mean, they weren't on city property. And in fact, you trespassed on other people's property to get them.
Well, I mean, hell, if you want them, you can get them now.
Yeah, and then he offered for us to go collect all the signs that he'd ripped up all the sides of the street. And I was like, okay, that was our first experience with the good old boy system, like firsthand. We've obviously always heard about it in Alabama, but that was like the first experience. We were like, okay, so this is how this works. If you're not in good with the people in charge, then you get shafted. So that was the first go that we got at that. I think we ended up coming out with like, I think it was like a quarter of the vote or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it was something like that. It wasn't anything wild, but at the same time, though, the whirlybird was going around. We couldn't go door to door knocking because the whirlybird was causing a bit of a problem with that. So that hampered us a bit. And also, the guy that the enforcer was running against was a fellow who had lived in Wetumpka his entire life. He had worked at the high school his entire life, and he was deeply ingrained with everybody in the community. So the fact we got a quarter of the vote was like astonishing, honestly, because I thought it was going to be lower than that. But yeah, politics, like that was my first up close look at politics. And I was like, okay, this is local, like small time, like petty politics, and this is already like not going great. So I was like, I think I've had enough.
And also another thing, this was an evolutionary moment for me, just telling you all the whole story. Back when that was going on, which was the year of 2020, me and Matthew were very, very political people, like very, very political. I mean, like if the people we call Kool-Aid drinkers, we weren't far from them, at least then. And then when we ran that election together, and then I just got absolutely shafted. Like Matthew was a part of that, but I lost, got shafted. The campaign signs were stolen. And what was interesting about that is that everyone in the election for that district was in the same kind of like political affiliation, like the same party. And then I realized, wow, they actually do not care. Like these political parties do not care if you're affiliated with them or not. If it's not within their personal interests, they are going to screw you over. And that's when I realized there's no point in even really backing up or supporting a political party with your life and acting like you owe it to them, because they will let you waste your life on the party, and they won't even think a second thought about it, and they'll actually call you an idiot for doing it. And that's why I was like, I'm not getting that involved or that like entrenched into politics again, where I'm like worshiping a party or act like that party is perfect and another one is evil, because like the party I believed in screwed me over, and I know that the other one's doing it to their side too, because you can hear stories like that all the time. And so that's when I was like, you know what, I'm gonna take a good step back from the whole political thing. Not wanting to be into politics, I still want to be in it, but taking a step back from acting like, you got to sit there and support your party and just be pretty much a slave to their wishes, because like, it doesn't matter. They'll screw you over as soon as their wishes don't align with yours. They'll do it in an instant. Also, a lot of people are saying messing with political science is a felony. Yeah, it was a felony here in the state of Alabama. It's just that, who's going to look into that? The city authorities? They're the ones stealing the signs. It's like, who looks into that? That's kind of the situation with that whole deal down there in that town.
And also it would be hard. It would honestly be kind of difficult. That's not impossible. But at the same time, though, there's no proof that the guy who was working for the city had orders from the mayor to go get them. There was no definitive proof of that. It was just simply, what they would probably say is the janitor simply messed up and grabbed the wrong signs or made a mistake. That's probably what they would say. And it would just be the end of the story. And they'd be like, okay, that's just what it was. So there was really nothing to be done about it except for realize that, okay, that's just the way it works. And you can try to fight it, and really you probably should fight it when you see that and have the chance, but it wouldn't have changed the outcome.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it was. So we were like, eh. And what was so stupid is that we were running on policies. Like when we were running on policies, I came up with my policy points. I was like, I want to do this, I want to do that. And then Matthew would put that into form where we could actually show people what we were about. And I was saying things like, the city ought to be putting money into their roads. We ought to be trying to incentivize businesses, because once again, Montgomery, Alabama is a hellhole. And if you wanted to get anything from anywhere, you had to go from Wetumpka down to Montgomery. So everyone living in Wetumpka had to take a trip into hell every day to go get groceries and stuff. So I was like, what if we brought Publix up here and Chick-fil-A and all the nice little creature comforts that everyone goes down to Montgomery for, but we had it up here so that way everyone could avoid Montgomery. That was like pretty much the whole running campaign slogan of mine was, get the hell away from Montgomery, Alabama. So I lose the election quite by a decent margin. The other guy won by like 75% or something. Still, I'm honestly shocked that we got 25% of the vote when I was 18 years old. That's actually pretty shocking when you think about it, that an 18-year-old actually stood any chance at all. But beyond that,
it was the joke video, man. I'm telling you, it was that joke video. That's the one that did it. Or every single teacher that we had in high school had seen the videos that we had made, these political ads. I was going to town like on this dude. Like this dude was, I could tell he was in with the mayor, and I was like, okay, this guy's like, he's good friends with the mayor. He won't really acknowledge us at all or anything. So I'm like, okay, so we'll just play funny here with this. So we made a bunch of like video political campaign ads in the middle of the downtown, and we would put them all over Facebook and all over YouTube and everything, and everybody in the town would watch them. And literally everybody in the town was talking about that. It was insane. Like everybody was like, damn, like these two like young like kids, 18, 19 years old, are out here like freaking going berserk with this city council campaign. That was the talk of the town, honestly.
So we lost the election. Like getting back onto this was the most infuriating thing. We lost the election, right? And you would think that it would be because we had bad policy points, and the other guy's policy points were just stupid, like truly stupid. Y'all want to know what his policy point, the main one, was? He said that he wanted to put flower pots in downtown. That was his whole policy point. The whole thing. That was literally the whole thing. He didn't have any additional ones rather than that. And so I came out the gate swinging. I actually was talking about like city improvements, paving roads, upkeeping infrastructure, bringing in new businesses, to make sure that the quality of life in the town was improved. Everyone, oh, this is just great. And then they acted like, oh, well, flower pots are better, dumbass. So we lose the election. Fast forward to the present day, and guess what, folks? All the roads in Wetumpka are freshly paved, and they're also bringing Chick-fil-A and Publix into Wetumpka. So literally the campaign points that I ran on, they forced us, they pretty much screwed us out of winning the election, ran us off, and then right after that, they literally implement every single policy point that I said I wanted to do if I was elected as one of the city councilors. It was like, that was just...
They did the exact same thing. Remember, I was our policy like thing, and obviously it's a city council seat, so it's not like becoming a senator or something like that. But it's still important for the town. But we were saying give like financial incentives to bring businesses like Publix, which is a pretty upscale grocery chain, to Wetumpka, so that way you don't have to drive to Montgomery if you want to go to that grocery store. And apparently they must have done that, because I'm not sure why Publix suddenly showed up in Wetumpka, because it was a place that Publix was not willing to entertain. They'd refused to come there before, at least according to what I had heard, because they claimed that the population of the town didn't support the business. But apparently they must have given them some financial consideration, because they eventually changed their mind.
Yeah, it's like they literally did exactly what we said we should do. And it's like and System Nomad put it clearly, you guys changed the city, but they stole your ideas. That's exactly how it felt, because it's like what they did pretty much is that they screwed us out of winning by putting their little dude up there, to run against us, because they were pretty much going to try and rig it in his favor any way they could by stealing signs, all that yada yada yada, so that way he'd win and he would get the little paycheck from the city instead of us. And then they were just going to push forward with our plans anyways, because they were pretty good. And I was like, that is just so scummy. And like, I'll just be honest, full disclosure, Alabama leans a pretty significant way politically. I'm pretty sure that a lot of y'all kind of, know which way it leans politically. And we were kind of in that Kool-Aid drinking camp for a while. And then after that happened, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to be a part of that Kool-Aid drinking camp, because they will screw you over just like the other side would. It's like, then there's no difference. It's like, why even back any of them? It's like, you're not getting a benefit out of them. They'll screw you over as soon as it benefits them to do it. So it's like, why, like, that's why I'm always just so perplexed by the people who are really political that get on here and they preach the party slogans. Like, the Democrats will say that they hate Trump, and the Republicans will say that they hate like Kamala or whatever. And I'm like, do y'all not realize that, both of those people would literally see you, and if there was a puddle in their way, they would push you down in that puddle and walk right over you and let you drown in that puddle if it meant that their shoes would stay dry. It's like all of those people at that kind of a level are just like that. Every single one of them is. So why in the world do people act like their lives depend on pushing their bullshit slogans for their entire lives, and acting like they can't talk to people who don't believe the slogans? Like that's just something to me that just like I can't really connect with anymore, having my own personal experiences with just town level politics. Much less national politics, which is another cesspit of its own right, and still as debauched as this one. But Anyways, I hope that does address that fairly well. You know, it was a very hopefully it was a fun story. But nevertheless, I hope that does address it well. Matthew, how many super chats do we have left?
All right, so we have, let's see here, about 27 left.
Oh, dang, that's actually a lot of them. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Harvey the Drummer, once again, who puts in a 20. And thank you very much, Harvey the Drummer, for that $20 support, and we appreciate that very much. And they said, any gun reviews coming soon?
Sadly, no. We largely shelved the whole gun review concept because YouTube came down hard on gun review content. Because the plan is that with the expense we were putting into finding guns, that we would be able to turn that around by making a profit on the videos, like, you know, say a sponsorship or something like that in the future. But then YouTube made it to pretty much where you can't get a sponsorship on gun videos, so the idea became unprofitable. Like, well, not really unprofitable. It became a concept where we would never break even. No matter how good we got at it, even if we got 1 million views on a video, we probably would not be able to break even because of the production costs. So we had to shelve the entire concept, just because if we did it, we would just start blowing money until we went broke. So sadly, we won't have a gun review coming out anytime soon, like a purpose-made one. But every once in a while, I will probably shoot a gun on a video here and there and just show it for the fun of it. But sadly, we will never be able to actually follow through with doing the gun review videos at any point in the future. But still, I thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this channel possible, and we wouldn't be able to keep it rolling. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Rye Guy SR, who puts in a $10 donation, and thank you very much, Rye Guy, for that $10 support, and we do appreciate that very much. And they said, hey, Enforcers, and did either of you catch the Ben Shapiro interview with Zelensky, and thoughts? And also, I can't believe Ben Shapiro got an interview with him, by the way. It's kind of wild. But anyway, he said also, where did India get the aircraft carrier? Was it built or bought? LSA, Slav Ukraine, and long live the Republic.
I think India, and also long live the Republic, I think India actually built their aircraft carrier, if I remember correctly. And also, I did hear about the interview that Ben Shapiro had with Zelensky. Me personally, you know, I'm not like, I'll be honest, I'm not really a big fan of of really like any bigwig political commentator people like Ben Shapiro, Steven Crowder, Charlie Kirk. I don't really like, I'll be honest with y'all, I really don't know any of the Democrat ones or the liberal ones. I don't really know what they are. Like, I'm not really like, that's how little of a fan I am of them, and I'm really not a fan of these folks either. So I really don't pay attention a lot to what they do, because like I was saying, you know, like these people are not really what they seem to be. Like, you know, like that Steven Crowder guy, and how he treated his wife. Which, I mean, like, there's no way to deny it. I mean, it was hardcore evidence. It was literally filmed. It's like, how in the world can you treat your pregnant wife like that, you know, and then talk about you stand for traditional values? Like, really, it's like a traditional person would never treat their wife like that, ever. Like, honestly, no upstanding person, whether they're traditional or not, would treat their wife like that. I don't know where the hell he gets the idea he could do that. But beyond that, I never really pay attention much to those kinds of folks, really, for those kinds of reasons. So I personally didn't see it, but I did hear about it. But I do thank you so much for the support and the kind words and helping this channel to keep on running, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this channel possible, and we wouldn't be able to make this thing a reality. And also, I see a lot of people talking about the commentators, like, you know, the political people. Oh yeah, it's rough. Who in the world, Matthew? Who in the world are even the big people on the left? Because I don't even know any of their names.
On the left side, political commentators. I believe this fellow named Pac-Man is one of them. Excuse me.
Nick Fuentes,
the Young
is he one
Turks.
of them?
I don't really honestly know what the hell he is, to be honest with you. He's just very extreme. I'm honestly, I don't know if he really goes one way or the other, to be honest with you. I'm really not sure, but he says some crazy crap. But let's see, another big one, Young Turks would be one of them, leans left. Another one would probably be, I think, that Daily Show thing that's on, what's his name, Jon Stewart or something like that. He's a left fella. Bill Maher or whatever you say his name is. He's a left-wing fellow generally. I think there's also the Midas channel as well. That's another one. And I think that's all the ones I can really think of off the top of my head.
I personally don't listen to any of them much. I just know the names of the ones on the right, because for some reason I feel like the right has a little bit of a better handle on how to populate in the social media space, more so than the left. So I see them a little bit more. But honestly, because I see them more, I get more annoyed at them than the left. I feel like I get as annoyed as them as I saw them as much. But I really get, man, I get annoyed, dude. Honestly, man, with that Charlie Kirk guy, man. Because he always goes to colleges and he always debates people who don't know what they're doing or talking about. And like I'm not saying that his points are wrong. I'm just saying that he's kind of setting himself up for easy wins. Like it's such an insincere debate platform because these kids are stupid, folks. Like there's just no way to cut that hair without saying it honestly. And it doesn't matter whether they're right wing or left wing. All of them are just about as filled with knowledge as piss in a boot. There's nothing about them that's intelligent. And so he shows up there, he sets up a little booth, and then these people come up and try and debate him, and they don't even know what the hell they're talking about. This guy has researched this topic. He knows it backwards and forwards. He's come up with all the gotchas before he could even arrive. And then he goes up there and he's slaughtering these stupid kids who just don't know any better. It's like, I feel like it would be a more sincere kind of a debate because I'll be honest with y'all. I find debate to be nearly a sport, especially when both people are equally matched. And it's fun to watch. Like, it's actually fun to watch two people with differing opinions but very great depths of intelligence on that topic speak about it, because you learn a lot about these people and what they're saying and what kind of information revolves around the topic. But with those kinds of gotcha sorts of things that are really popular in the political space, you just never really get any of that. It's really just more so like, let's feel good by chopping their legs out from under them. And just a whole bunch of stupid folks coming up, getting ready to have their necks chopped off. It's like, I just don't find that kind of a thing fun, because you can clearly tell these people are dumb as bricks and they don't know what they're talking about. I
just love it when all the political commentators get into a fight with somebody and they'll be arguing so hard and stuff like that. And then they realize, wait a minute, I actually don't know what I'm saying here. I don't know where I'm going with this argument. So they start getting like livid and irate. I saw, and also, by the way, I'm not making a comment on the guy's politics, but I saw Jordan Peterson fall into that trap the other day. I saw a short video of him getting angry with some guy that was debating him. I was like, oh my God. I'm like, that's one way to like quickly ruin any credibility someone might have had, was to get loud, angry, and violent, or at least in your speech, you're getting violent because you're losing an argument. It's like, yeah, okay, that's just like whatever you were saying, it's just gone by the wayside now because you've lost your cool.
But something I got to say that was really interesting to me. The debates on television are nothing new. I'm sure many of y'all know that. And really, debates that have been televised have been the thing really ever since the medium of television became common in the 50s. And I've watched all kinds of like interesting debates. And some of the really interesting ones, and I couldn't believe that they were able to pull this off back in the day. It was during like the civil rights era. They would get like civil rights leaders up on stage with like leaders of like very, I don't even think YouTube would allow me to say the name, very, very questionable despotic groups that exist prevalently here in the South during that time. They would actually have them debate. And it was a very interesting thing, like because no one was like trying to win it, but they were putting out the points. And of course, like there's no way you can agree with the Klan. I mean, it's like, who the hell could? But it's very interesting to hear like the debates actually being put out, because it's like, wow, it's like that's it's not like a gotcha or anyone's trying to win or it's just devolving into chaos. It's like they're actually putting out the points. Or better yet, there were some really interesting ones that were put out during the 70s, in the late 80s, pretty much through that whole era, on all kinds of topics in the United States. I mean, like topics of Vietnam, all sorts of things. And they would have people for it and against it. And of course, you come up with your own opinions, and some of them are quite obviously, in the modern age, we know which answers were right or wrong. But it was still interesting to listen to people put out their sides and their opinions, and it wasn't really just trying to, do gotchas. It was actually trying to put out points. And I was like, wow, even if some points were obviously not even good, it was a very interesting kind of a medium to see, and a very respectable way of doing it as well. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that the best I can, at least in my opinion, but we do have to speed up. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Brad Wall, who puts in a $10 donation. And thank you very much, Brad, for that $10 support. He said, to my fellow all-season Kiwis, respect to our nations on Anzac Day, and lest we forget.
Hey! And a huge shout out to all of y'all, because it is Anzac Day. And a massive shout out to the Australian and New Zealand forces who laid down their lives in the First World War in the defense of Western values and beliefs, because American values really didn't exist yet, at least as a mainstream sort of a global phenomenon. And so with that, a massive shout out to you once again, and a huge thanks for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Alan Mellon, who puts in a 10. And thank you very much, Alan, for that support as well. He said, in the U.S. Army, you can join as an E4, and it takes an act of Congress to remove an E7 rank.
Interesting. And thank you for sharing that, because that's clearing up some of the murky waters that we were having earlier on stream. But a huge thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Rye Guy SR, who puts in a 10. And thank you very much, Rye Guy, for that. I believe the second support of the night. And he said, a big thanks to all of our current and retired service members, and us common folk appreciate your sacrifice, big or small.
Hey, and a very nice thing to hear. And I got to thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And it's a wonderful thing to know that a lot of people have an outpouring of support for that tonight. So a huge thanks to you so much once again, Rye Guy Senior, and helping this channel to keep on running. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Tom Xman, who puts in a 10. And thank you very much, Tom, for that support. He said, thanks for showing my old swimming hole, Groveland Park, Mercer Island. Haven't seen it in years. And did you know that President Obama's mom lived on the island in 1960? Really? I do know that that island's expensive as hell. Like, yeah. I think that's where the most expensive real estate in Seattle might be, is on Mercer Island, I think. And it looked like that when we were driving around, and I was like, okay, these are some pretty large houses, like right on the water. I think these are like in the multi-millions. I think they were like in the tens of millions, I think. So expensive place. The old swimming hole, that's an expensive swimming hole right there. But Enforcer, what say you?
You sly dog, you were living on Mercer Island. That's actually a really nice place. Matthew, you know that it's a nice place when they built tunnels for the interstate to go under. Like right here. You know it's a nice place when they do that, because hardly anywhere, unless if they have to, do they build tunnels for interstates. And they did it here probably just to cut down on the road noise. But beyond that, I got to thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And that is really cool, actually, to hear that you're from Mercer Island. We were wandering around Mercer Island, and I got to say, the whole thing was fantastic. Take a look at this. Look at that. Like, this is the residential area. Pretty much the whole island is. And it was a really beautiful place. We went to this park right down here somewhere. Where is it? Let's see here. I think
it's Franklin Landing.
Oh, yeah, right here. Right here.
Oh, it's right there.
Yeah, it's right here. The Groveland Beach Park. We went down here. We saw a bunch of ruffians conducting a sale at illicits. But it was a really beautiful place, actually. It was gorgeous, really. So a big shout out to you. And thanks for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. It's really cool to hear that this is your old swimming hole out here near Seattle. And also really cool to hear that Barack Obama's mom is from this place. Crazy to hear where folks come from sometimes, because one thing that's wildly interesting to me is that people who, everyone knows, like Richard Nixon, he came from an area, I think, near Bakersfield, California, and his dad ran an orange grove, which failed. And then I think he sold the orange grove and then went and ran a gas station, or was like a gas station. Yeah, I think he was a manager of a gas station. And Richard Nixon grew up in like abject poverty. It's kind of interesting to hear people's early life stories, because sometimes you would never expect that these people had like tough runs of it, like Nixon did, or other folks. Like, something else interesting, Matthew? I found out that FDR, when he was a kid, because I was reading that Louisville and Nashville history book, he grew up near Harlan County, the famous Harlan County where like the giant coal mine battle went on, where the Unions pretty much fought the U.S. Army. FDR would ride around with his dad on horseback through Harlan County and just look at the countryside through there. I found that out through the book.
That's interesting. I've never heard of that.
Yeah, I never heard of that either. I was like, wow, what a neat little fact. I was like, I never knew that FDR grew up anywhere near Harlan County. And like, and that started making me think, I wonder if that like molded his view of the world, seeing like all of those coal miners in these company towns and stuff. And he was growing up around them. I was like, I wonder if that molded his view of the world into the kind of view that he had when he became president and started implementing his policies in the New Deal. I was like, that was really kind of an interesting thing. But anyways, I do thank you for the support and sharing those kinds of interesting little facts right there. And with that, it's time for us to move on to the next one.
And our next one goes to James, who puts in a $10 donation. And thank you very much, James, for that $10 support. He said, thanks for the good news, and you all are great.
Hey, and we love to put out good news. Well, today wasn't really good news. The new war starting really isn't good, but we're glad that it's of high quality. And I do thank you so much for the support and really appreciating the channel and helping it to keep on running. As Matthew over there goes, like,
You said it's of high quality. The way you said that made it sound like the war was of high quality. Like this at least it's of high quality. It's like, well, I guess you could say that.
Well, maybe. I mean, it's better than the Sudanese Civil War. I remember we got grilled for even trying to cover that one.
Low quality.
Yeah, that was a low quality war. No one even knew what was going on. Really, no one still knows what's going on down there. But anyways,
they didn't even know what was going on either. Like the people fighting.
Dude, I still don't think anyone really does know what's going on down there, and that's been going on for like a year and a half now. I don't even think anyone really knows what the actual factions are, because like we know of the RSF and the SFA, I think, but I don't even think anyone really knows exactly where the front line is down there right now. So, that one's a low quality war. This would be a high quality war because India and Pakistan be running that thing real. So, nevertheless, I do thank you for support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Darren Quinn, who puts in a 10. And thank you very much, Darren, as well, for that support. And he said, check how many dams China has built in the Himalayas. And this has caused stress on India and Pakistan for years, as China stole Tibet purely to take the water from the mountains. And India, Pakistan have been hostile.
Thank you for support. And that's actually true. I have heard about that. And there has been a lot of dam construction that the Chinese have been doing. And I hope that the Chinese aren't going to start doing something nasty. That's why India and China don't have good relationships with each other. And that's also why BRICS isn't this like incredibly strong sort of an alliance like it is. Because, India and China hate each other. And also India and China are the biggest members of BRICS. So not really a good look. But still, thank you once again for support. I hope that it's addressed that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Dean Hugh, who puts in a 10. And thank you very much, Dean, for that support. He said, you should consider Charleston for HQ3. Lots of character, outstanding history, beach, ocean, and culture, not too much monies, and similar to New Orleans, but you won't get shot. Honestly, Dean, no offense, but I cannot stand New Orleans. Like, out of my least favorite places in the country, I would say New Orleans is at one of the top on the list. It's just not my thing. I don't like it. It feels nasty and it feels damp and it feels like the swamp. Honestly, it feels like kind of like Southern Florida to an extent, outside the really nice area. Like the West Palm Beach downtown was highly nice, like way over the top. But if you went way outside of it or just barely outside of it, it turned kind of rough. And I don't like that. I'm not a huge fan of it. But Enforcer, what say you?
Been to take shut into the swamp. But beyond that, it's an all right place. I would give it a look. But I'm generally at this point, we're trying to see if we can escape the South. Not to go into that hugely. It's not that we hate the South. It's just that a change of scenery would be neat. And I have a feeling that probably after we get a change of scenery, we'll probably all be going, wow, we would love to go back to the South. Because that's probably that's usually how it's always gone. Is that we always say, we want to change the scenery. And then we'll go somewhere for like back in the day, it would be like a week or two on a vacation. And then we'll be like, man, we can't wait to get back to the South. We know the South. So maybe Charleston may actually be an Enforcer HQ of the future. But look, it's Fort Sumter, South Carolina, correction there. Oh, look at that, Matthew. The beginning of the Civil War was right here at Fort Sumter. Pretty cool.
What about Asheville, North Carolina? How's that look?
Asheville? Oh, Asheville's like a really neat place. It was hit by that hurricane, though, recently and got damaged pretty badly. But it's an interesting little place.
Yeah, it looks fascinating. I think Biltmore is nearby.
Yeah, Biltmore actually is just south of the city, right down here.
Yeah, I think I lived there.
Yeah, I mean, that's not a bad place. The Nantahala National Forest is just right outside of it, right out here. And then that little, Dragon's Tail Road's right out here as well, so that's pretty neat little place. And also, one other thing I forgot to mention is that the Smoky Mountains Heritage Railroad also runs in this area. Holy smokes, folks, I somehow included trains. Can you all believe that? Put an LC in the chat, folks, if you all knew that was going to happen. Look at that. Yeah, boy. We love to see it. We love to see it. Look at that. We were just raking up the time, Matthew. We are running the clock. Oh, look at that. Dude, I love that coach. That is a nice-looking coach right there.
That's a nice coach.
Why don't they make them like they used to, Matthew? Why don't they... Come on! But anyways, it's time for us to move on to the next one. Oh, look at that. Oh, dude. I like that.
That's not bad.
That's not bad. That's not bad. You're really picky. You're really picky, dude. Look at this one. You like this? You like this a little bit more? Huh?
It's not bad.
You see how they have no assigned seating on here? Brightline ought to take tips. Like they ought to take some tips. But anyways, with that, we are going to be moving on to the next one.
Also, by the way, Asheville, North Carolina is out because there's nowhere to even live. Like, there's only 14 rentals available in the entire place. So, yeah, that place is out. But anyways, jumping into our next one here. This one goes to David Kendall, who puts in a 10. And thank you very much, David, for that support. He said, enforcers, please mention Anzac Day in Gallipoli. It was a big one for the day down under of the land of the long white cloud.
Thank you so much for the support. And Anzac Day is a pretty big deal. The Battle of Gallipoli was a deadly and costly battle that really amounted to nothing strategically in the First World War, but amounted to a lot in forging a individual Australian and New Zealand identity that still holds strong to this day. And I got to say that I hope that y'all have all had a great Anzac Day and a very important day of remembrance, remembering all of those lives that were shed, or more so the blood that was shed on the beaches of Gallipoli, forming the new world that is we've been seeing it today for about the past century or so. And so with that, a huge thank you to you once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. I hope that has addressed that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And we have a 5 from Purple Gerbil. And thank you very much, Purple Gerbil, for that $5 support. And he said, welcome back, Enforcers, and LSA forever.
Hey, and LSA forever, baby! And I got to thank you for the support. And long live the Lee Spring Army, and the Lee Spring Army will never die. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And we got a 5 from CK Bold, who said, take a live chat question.
And we will take a live chat. So what do we got, Matthew, in honor of CK Bold?
This one goes to Asteroid, who said, do you think that China is going to get involved between India and Pakistan?
I have a feeling they'll most likely stay out of it because it's a little bit of an interesting situation with the three. They'll probably stay out of it, though, and just sit back and watch and see what happens. So with that, I hope that does address that well. Thank you once again, CK Bull, for sponsoring our live chat and helping this channel to keep on running. And we are on to the next one.
All right, and I see the bots are coming in here at the last second. They're saying crazy stuff. They're Russian bots. But anyways, jumping into our next one here. This one is going to go to Russia. Nasi, who puts in a 5 and says, hi, from Malaysia, I believe. And they said a Vatican Pope died in 1914 and another in 1939. Excuse me. And Pope Francis died 2025. World War III? The world's going crazy. Let's hope for the best in Slava Ukraine.
And Slava Ukraini and Haram Slav. And that's an interesting little coincidence right there. A little coinkydink. But we'll see. Hopefully not. But, you know, anything can happen these days. And so with that, thank you for support all the way from Malaysia, actually, which is pretty cool. And so, huge thanks to you so much once again. And we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Alan Mellon, who puts in a 5. And thank you very much, Alan, for that support. He said, correction, 06 or high to remove an E7 in the U.S. Army.
And I thank you for the support, and I thank you for sharing that fact. We are learning a lot about how that actually works tonight. And a huge thanks to you once again, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and moving on to our next one here. This one is going to go to, let me see if my spreadsheet's going to work. This one goes to Bloop Bloop, who puts in a 5. Thank you very much for the support. Whoa, but they said, I think you guys banned my other account. Sir, thanks a lot. Not sure why. Could I possibly get it back? And sorry if I offended you in the past. Honestly, I don't recall banning that account. I don't memorize the accounts, but at the same time, I don't recall banning that one because I usually take that seriously when I ban people. Now, I don't just do it like on a whim. Like I usually give like warnings and things like that. So I don't recall that. Like there might just be a problem like maybe with the account or something like that because I don't recall it. But Enforcer, what say you?
I just say I thank you for the support. I'm not really the one in charge of banning. That's not really my wheelhouse. That's more so Matthew's. But if Matthew doesn't remember it, I don't know. I don't know if we banned it or not. But sadly, it's really hard to unban accounts once they're banned. But I do thank you for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And I hope that does address that somewhat well, or at least the best we can. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Joe Little, who puts in a 5 and says, have the enforcers done a 2024 practice test tax return for the state Washington tax money? No, I haven't. I'm not sure. Like, is there something special with it or something? I'm not really sure. I hate taxes, like doing them. I don't necessarily hate paying them. Like, I don't mind paying them. It's just something everybody has to do. But I hate having to, like, fill out the returns. Like, that's just, like, a lot of work. And I hate doing it. It just stresses me out. But I haven't done it. I don't want to even look at it. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say I haven't done a practice one for the state of Washington, but I loyally pay my taxes to the government because the IRS scares me. But still, I think it wants to give her support and help with the channel to keep it running. And we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one here goes to Upt Zulu, who puts in a 5 and says, "People I know acknowledge a multi-year world war before nukes would be used. That would be the end, the end-all, be-all sort of thing."
I would say that that's largely on point. I would agree with that. And oh man, the sniffles.
Oh, excuse me.
Look at that. But anyways, I do thank you for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Alexander Oberlander, MD, medical doctor, I would assume. They put in a 5, and they said, "I lived in Bernal, Russia, 2018 to 2024 for med school, detained multiple times by the FSB, and recorded detainment trials. If you're interested, I can share." Honestly, I would be interested in that, actually. I'd be very interested in that. Detained multiple times by the FSB. How are you able to record the detainment trials? Because to my understanding, they don't let you record that, those proceedings like that. They film it for state TV in Russia, but they don't let the detainee record anything, nor do they let the detainee record the trial either. So not sure how you filmed it, but that would be interesting to see. But Enforcer, what say you?
That would be interesting to see, and I got to thank you for support, and I would be interested about hearing that as well. So a huge thanks to you once again, and with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Simon Condon, who puts in a 5. And thank you very much, Simon. They said, "Remembering the Anzacs, LLT, LSA," and take one from the chat.
Hey, long live the Lee Spring Army, and we have to remember the Anzacs. It is Anzac Day after all, unless we forget, much like Remembrance Day. But I do thank you massively for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this thing a reality, and we wouldn't be able to keep it running. And so a huge thanks to you once again, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and this one goes to Mark, and from the live chat, by the way. This is a live chat question. They said, "Who wins in a conventional war, India or Pakistan? Who's your money on?"
My money would largely be... that's actually a tough one. My money would largely be on the Indians, not the Pakistanis. But I could be proven wrong. You never know in wars. Wars are a bit of a fickle thing. They could go one way or the other. And you can have all the spreadsheets in the world, and then something unprecedented happens, and there's a landslide victory for the side that was expected to lose. But with that, I hope that is addressed to the best I can. I think I want to give her support and help this channel to keep on running. And we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Kyle Padell, who puts in a 5. And thank you very much, Kyle, as well, for that support. He said, "Welcome back, Enforcer Andrew and Enforcer Matt. Great traveling video." And thank you, by the way. He said, "Slav LSA and big fan from Oklahoma."
Hey, and a big shout out to Oklahoma. And a thanks to you once again for the support. And thank you for enjoying the travel video. That's actually very nice of you. And so with that, thank you once again. I hope that is addressed that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Ed, who puts in a 5. And he says, "Hey, Enforcers, Irish Ed here. And have you ever heard of the Molly Maguires in Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania?"
I actually have a little Molly Maguires. Oh, those crazies. And Jim Thorpe is actually a pretty neat little place. I forgot what it was called. I think it was like called Mock Chunk originally, but then they changed it to Jim Thorpe later. I think, if I'm correct. But Jim Thorpe is actually pretty cool. And they call it like a little Switzerland of the Appalachians. And they have like the little horse-drawn carriage rides, and they have the little railroads. So you got to have the railroads, and it's just a nice little town. This is a nice little town. What can anyone dislike about Jim Thorpe? Look at that. Look at that, Matthew. It is classic up here in Jim Thorpe. But I have heard of the Molly Maguires. They were a little band of folks that were a part, I think, of the strikers, but they started going around and murdering folks and or largely conducting partisan activities for the great deal. And I think they were caught and executed. Most of them were, at least. And then some of the Molly Maguires went running into the hills. But I have heard of them before. I have actually heard of them. And I've also heard of the little town not that much farther north. One second, folks. I'm actually trying to yawn deliberately right now to see if I can get my ears to pop a little bit more, and it really didn't work. But there's a little...
right?
Yeah, and it didn't work. Like, honestly, that was disappointing. Where in the world's that little bridge? Where's the bridge? Come on. Oh, here
Right
we
there.
go.
It says Trail Bridge.
Yeah, this is the bridge. This is the bridge I'm looking for right here. There's this guy called Part-Time Explorer on YouTube. He makes great videos. He actually showed there was a little town that existed under this bridge over here somewhere. And that bridge actually does look like that, by the way. It actually is like weird and like kind of like angled. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that well. I think it wants to give her support and help with this channel to keep it running. They're not popping.
Whoa.
And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Ricardo M. Freitas. And thank you very much, Ricardo, for that $5 support. Also, big shout out to Jason Curling, who put in a 3, and Plazoth, who also put in a 3 and said LLT, LSA. And huge shout out to Plazoth, Jason, and Ricardo for that support. And Enforcer, what say you?
I got to thank you all to y'all so much for the support, because it wasn't for the lot of yous, we wouldn't be able to help this channel to keep running, and we wouldn't be able to make it possible day in and day out. And so a big thanks to y'all once again. Huge thanks to yous. And with that, it's time for us to move on to the next one.
And this one goes to Sig Sauer, not Sour, but Sour, who puts in a 4 and says, about time the 716i gets some play. Oh man, I can't read all the second part though. The second part gets a little bit sketch. I'm not gonna lie, that joke right there was some YouTube would not like. But thank you, Sig Sauer, for that support. And Enforcer, what say you?
I gotta thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, it wouldn't be a reality. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to LSA Sergeant Figment, also known as Sarge, who puts in a 2 and says, LSA, smack the like, that's an order.
Hey, smack that like. We actually got up to nearly 4.1 thousand likes, so it was a very big stream tonight. And we've almost had 100,000 people on the stream so far viewing it. And so a huge thanks to you once again, LSA Sergeant Figment, a true sergeant of the Lee Spring Army. And with that, we are on... Oh, why are they not popping, dude? I keep on, like, I'm like, almost, like, going on my way to yawn, and it's not popping. Anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Esteban Graves, who puts in a 2. And thank you very much, Esteban, for that support as well. We appreciate it. We also have a 2 from Dean Hugh once again, who said 12,000 watching. Booyah. Congrats in LSA.
Hey, and a huge thanks to you for the support. And long live the Lee Spring Army. And it's great to know that there was about 13,000 people here tonight watching for a bit. And it's pretty wild. So a huge thanks to you once again. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And we have a 2 once again from Bloop Bloop, who said ROTC waiver to skip basic.
I've never heard of that before. But I'll have to look into
I think that actually is a thing, actually. If you go through college ROTC, that is like, I think, considered the equivalent of basic training. I think that actually might be a way to skip basic, but you're not really skipping it. You're just getting it in a different setting, I think. But I don't know about that. Don't quote me.
That's very interesting, though. And I do thank you for supporting and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to So Many Regrets, who puts in a 2. It says, thoughts on referencing a Verdun revival on Steam. And let's go.
Oh, Verdun is a great game. Love Verdun. If they bring back a revival of it or a remaster of it, I would get it in a second. I actually would play that game a good bit. I was a master of that. And that's actually where the Enforcer name from the YouTube channel comes from. My name in Verdun was the Enforcer. Funnily enough, that was kind of like the beginning of the Enforcer name. But still, a huge thanks to you once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Kyle Padell, who puts in a 2 and says, I was suffering from a lack of LSA.
He needs more cowbell, and he needs more Enforcer. And hopefully we were able to get y'all loads of Enforcer yesterday and today, because I think we are running marathon streams daily since we've returned. But still, a huge thanks to you once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Sparky107107, who puts in a $1 donation. And thank you very much, Sparky, for that $1 support as well and helping to keep the channel running. And Sparky is going to take us right into our live chat questions proper, because we are now fresh out of Super Chats. But once again, huge shout out to everybody for that support. And we do appreciate all that very much. And we're now jumping into our Morse code decoders of the night. And tonight, we had the entire roster. We had Cliff Simonson, Mark Hodges, Earl Bernew, Kevin J, Paul Schultz, David Millsaps, Royal Fluffiness, Arabelle Garbo, Joni Dog, and Norm Pritchett. They said, the Morse says, India and Pakistan going to war. Wasn't off the table, but this quickly, LOT, LSA.
And ding, 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 ding. Shh, that's the sound of money. Y'all got that dead on the nail. That was the Morse code message of the night. I got to congratulate y'all for getting that correct on the 1,156th day of the war. Y'all continue to get that correct time and time again, and continue to amaze the Lee Spring Army with your amazing deciphering skills. And so a massive shout out to all of y'all once again. And due to time reasons, we are going to be getting 3 live chat questions and rounding out the stream. And so with that, we are on to the third to last question of the night.
This one goes to Knox Date, who said, what would you guys add to the benefits for the military to bring more recruitments in? Here's what I would do. I would keep the discipline all the way it is. Like, there's nothing wrong with that, and it should be that way. The military is supposed to be very structured. That's good. but I would take away the hazing that's taking place in the military. And everybody who's been in the military knows about it. They need to crack down on that because it's not something that creates hardened soldiers. It's something that creates psychopaths, and that's not good. And also people get really bad things happening sometimes because of that hazing. They need to get a grip on that. Also, when people leave the service, they need to make sure they're taken care of properly and that they actually have access to, like, for example, veterans assistance for medical services and things like that. They need to get a grip on it. I know people have been saying it's been improving over the last couple of years. And once again, the veterans are the ones who would be best to speak on that. But I've heard some complaints as well about that. Also, let me get this bot here saying that I support Russia. I don't support Russia. Russia can piss off. But that's what I would do, generally speaking. And honestly, the military is going to always have sort of like a negative side to it because the military is not like a pansy field or something like that. It's the military. Like, you're going in to fight, and if you're going into like an infantry position, you're going in to kill. It's just part of it. So if that's not for you, then don't join. But Enforcer, what say you?
I will largely agree with everything that Matthew said, but I also bump up the pay for all ranks just a little bit because the amount of money that they're making these days is hardly even close to what you really have to make to even be able to survive in the country. And I know that they get a lot of benefits. They get free housing, the lower enlisted do, and they get groceries from the commissary, and they have the defects and all that. I know that, but a little bit of extra money on the top really gets a lot of people to want to join. Like, you can have all the benefits in the world, but if that money figure looks a little bit higher, then people will want to join. So I would say all the things that Matthew said, and also bump up the pay a little bit. And so with that, I hope that does address that well. And we are on to the second to last question of the night.
And this one is going to go to N. Hansen, who said, how long before the dams overflow, or do they have an alternate way to release the water?
It probably will be several days before the dams overflow, but they might be able to create a diversionary area to filter the water into where it doesn't go into the Indus River, but it just goes somewhere else, or pretty much divert the water is what that's called. But I hope that does address that the best I can. And with that, we are on to the final question of the night. And so, who is the lucky last person to throw in the lucky last question of the night?
And that viewer is Cat Sin of Wrath, who said, do you think that if they launch a nuke, either side, Pakistan or India, do you think you'd maybe do an emergency stream, perhaps? Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
For sure. And it said, not for sure if that warrants it due to it not being USA, Ukraine, or Israel.
Oh no, anything big in the world that happens, we'll be covering it in an emergency stream. If someone got nuked in the Indian subcontinent somewhere, we would be covering that immediately. Because that would quite literally be the biggest piece of news that has ever happened so far yet, outside of, like, including Ukraine, the Middle East, and East Asia. That would be the biggest thing that had happened the entire time we've ever been covering news on the channel. So with that, I hope that does address that the best I can, and we have reached the end of tonight's stream, and yippee! We made it! We made it to the end at 3 hours and 43 minutes long. I've got to give a massive thanks to all of y'all so much once again for watching. It's been an absolute honor and a pleasure to be able to run the stream for all of y'all and to be able to cover the news once again. If y'all did enjoy, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We love to see it. We've actually gotten up to 345,100 subscribers nearly, and it's continuing to climb higher and higher every day. We will also see you all tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern Time to cover the next 24 hours of the news from around the world. And so with that, good night, good luck, take care, stay safe, slow cranny, and long live the Lee Spring Army. The Lee Spring Army will never die.
And with that, folks, like the Enforcer said, thank you all once again for joining us once again tonight. And a huge shout out to all 100,000 people that joined us by the end of the stream. This was a pretty large stream tonight, I must admit. And it looks like it could be a recent record-setting stream, actually. And also 4,000 plus likes. So fantastic. And thank you all for smacking that like button as well. But with that, folks, we'll see you tomorrow on the nightly warning stream at 10 p.m. Eastern. And also maybe midday tomorrow as well for a short video if there is enough news to cover. But with that, thank you all for watching. Slav Ukraine. Here I'm Slava. Get some rest and good night.